Welcome back to Northern Perspective, everyone. I'm Cypher.
And I'm Fox. Tonight, we will be providing our live commentary to Vaughn Brennan's testimony to the OGO committee earlier today. We haven't seen it yet, but we have it on good authority that it was a very interesting session, and tonight's commentary is sure to be informative and entertaining.
So before we get started, we wanted to thank all of you for the happy birthday wishes. Today marks 1 year exactly to the day since we posted our first Northern Perspective video, and we've certainly come a long way.
We sure have. Although we're still using the avatars to hide our real identities, they have evolved since Northern Perspective's first video, and we feel our reporting has as well.
So thank you all for sticking with us. If you've been here since the beginning, and all of you newcomers, welcome to the community. And we hope to continue to bring you informative and engaging content for many years to come.
As tonight is one of our special committee live streams, we expect the stream to last at least 3.5 to 4 hours. As such, we regret that we will not be able to respond to comments or questions in the chat. However, Barnaby will be joining tonight in the chat.
As usual, we will be pausing the stream periodically to respond to super chats, gifted memberships from our generous viewers, as well as, of course, our commentary on committee.
We have been speaking with Ritika and Amir from Bottler the last few days, and they are so incredibly appreciative of everyone's kind words and support.
They were literally blown away from the love that the community gave them on that live stream. We know of all of the, well, we don't know of them. We know you have been sending just kind messages to them. It's really, really meant a lot to them. And, you know, as such, it means a lot to us because it's just a testament to the community that we've been able to build over the last year. And, you know, that just makes us proud of everybody here. So if you would like to reach out to Bottler directly, or if you would like to buy them a coffee, you can find both links in the description of the video. And we will also leave the Buy Me a Coffee link pinned to the top of the live chat. So before we get to that and the other business, just want to acknowledge some of the early super chats. Thank you so much, Alan, for the $100 super chat. Nothing special. Thanks for the great work you two provide. Thank you so much, Alan. And Katie Cat with a $13.99 super chat. Happy anniversary, Cypher and Fox. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you very much.
And Alan, 20 Northern Perspective gifted memberships. Thank you very, very much.
So, we have received several comments the last 24-ish hours regarding recent posts from several committee members, including Stephanie Kusie and Garnet Genuis.
Yeah, so when the Globe and Mail story dropped the other day, it obviously sparked a lot of discussion. It surprised a lot of people, and I think just caused a lot of good debate. Was accountability, defined by this? Was this even accountability? Did it go far enough? I think we can all agree that this is just the beginning of accountability as it relates to the people in this case and this government. And thank you, Humble Tracker, for holding us accountable with a $100 super chat. Congrats on 1 year. Thank you so much for your support over the last year, you and Alan. Now, the other thing that we want to touch on is the fact that the social media posts from some of the Conservatives seem to depart from what happened in committee.
Yeah, I was extremely upset when I saw Garnet Genuis's post. It felt to me like he was trying to make McDonald and Utano out to be almost victims, that calling them whistleblowers and trying to imply that they were punished because the Liberals didn't want them talking. So I was absolutely livid, and Cypher and I had a really good discussion about this yesterday. So
yeah, and it was interesting because you have Larry Brock, who put out a very neutral post. You have Stephanie Kusie that was talking about summoning ministers to committee and, kind of leaning a bit more to the victim side. And then you had Garnet Genuis, who was leaning heavily into that. And some people may say, well, what the heck's going on with the Conservatives? Well, if you take a step back and you think about it, remember that the Conservatives have been very cerebral their entire strategy for the last year. And they're not stupid people, right? They've had a plan, and they've been executing on that plan this whole time. So if you say, all right, if that's the case, they're not stupid and they're approaching this with a plan, then what is that plan? Well, here's the thing. So when you are dealing with lifelong public servants like Utano and McDonald, right? They're going to be pretty tied to the public service. They're going to have relationships tied either on good or bad karma. And you're going to end up with some sort of means of keeping them tied to these people that are in power and public service. The issue is that they have been severed from the public service. And we think what the Conservatives are doing is trying to hide the stick behind their back and offer them some honey and, you know, kind of like inviting them into a safe space. What does that do? It means that it gives them a sense of confidence and security that they can come back to committee and possibly turn on the people that are above them, right? If they hear the Conservatives in the social media space are saying, oh, well, you know, these people are just victims. They're, you know, it's not their fault. Then they're more likely to be able to say, yeah, what they said, and turn around and start pointing the finger at the real problems as it relates to as it relates to the people above them and the direction that they've been getting and the extent of the corruption that is in the government. So, a couple more donations to deal with right now. So, we have 20 Northern Perspective memberships gifted from Humble Tracker. Thank you very much. We did get a note on the volume. Hopefully that's corrected now. Please give us some feedback on that. Listless Receptionists, $5 super chat. Thank you so much. Thanks again for all your hard work. Here's hoping for a better 2024.
Thank you very much. We're hoping that there's going to be an election called soon, and we can all start to rebuild from there.
Kim Allen with a $13.99 super chat. Thank you very much. That's your first on a live stream. Thank you very much. Alice Avonlea, good to see you, Alice, with a $5 super chat. McDonald and Utano are the first two pawns being sacrificed. Yay, that's exactly what we're thinking. And Pink Emo Slayer, nice to see you in the super chats. Gifted 10 Northern Perspective memberships. Thank you so much. So we have now 2 sacrificial lambs that the government has kicked out the door. Now the Conservatives are trying to get them to convert and turn and, you know, speak openly about the people that have betrayed them, right? That sounds like the narrative that they're trying to catch. Now, make no mistake. I don't think there's a chance that if these guys are involved in any sort of criminal activity, which it seems like they very much are, there's no chance that they're not going to get charged with this. But it's a good strategy for the Conservatives now that they've kind of whipped them. Now they're trying to tame them, as it were. So that looks like to be the strategy here, and we'll see how that plays out. So if you have any comments about that, I encourage you all to discuss that between yourselves in chat as we go. We're getting ready to get into committee here. Another super chat by Robert McFallon. Nice to see you again, sir. $10. Thank you very much. The Chihuahua is going down. Yes, I hope so. And let's hope he's put in a kennel and locked in a cage.
And thank you, Jerry McKella, for the $2 super chat.
And Tony Petipus, I hope I said your name right. Welcome to NP Supporter as a member. Thank you very much. All right. As I say, should we get this party started, everybody?
Let's do it.
All right, let's get into this. That's what I want.
It's also known as the Mighty Ogo. Pursuant to Standing Order 108-2 and the motion adopted by the committee on Monday, October 17, 2022, committee is meeting on the study of the ArriveCan application. Reminder, please do not put your earpieces next to the microphone as it causes feedback and potential injury. I think that's just for you, Mr. Brock. Just informing everyone that the witnesses appearing by video conference have completed the required connection tests in advance of the meeting. Now we have Mr. Brennan joining us virtually. I believe you're in Toronto, Mr. Brennan. I understand you have an opening statement for 5 minutes. Please go ahead, sir. The floor is yours.
Now, before we get into Brennan's statement, so just so everybody knows who this guy is. So Vaughn Brennan was a project manager that seemingly was suggested by Christian Firth / Cameron McDonald. And it was suggested to Bottler that this guy be brought in to manage the project. Bottler responded to this saying, well, do you really think it's necessary? And they said, well, you know, the CBSA is going to be paying for it, so it's no skin off your back, and it'll help you guys, you know, with the administrative work. So Bottler said, all right, fine, you know, we don't have to pay for it. But the payments were set up in such a way that Bottler would be billed, and they were expecting to get the reimbursement through their payments through the CBSA, through that whole chain, through Cortex, Dalian, GC Strategies, and then back down to them. That's what we're assuming. So this guy was brought in to project manage. The interesting thing is this guy really didn't do anything, but he was paid. Who was he paid by? He was paid by Bottler. Was Bottler reimbursed for that? Absolutely not.
And beyond that, Bottler wasn't even paid by the CBSA for the work that they did do.
Right. So they received less than 50% of the contracted billable amount. And over and above that, they had to pay this guy his salary for, you know, the alleged hours that he actually put in. So that's who this guy is. And he's had a very odd career path. He has spent a lot of his time speaking about project management, and it doesn't seem like he spent a lot of time actually project managing himself. And he's had some contracts with the government, but it's very strange just the way this guy's career profile looks. So this is the mystery man. So here he is.
I do, thank you. Mr. Chair and honorable members of the committee, my name is Vaughn Brennan. I'm grateful to be here today and for the opportunity to respond to claims and allegations made against me in the media and testimony given by others who have appeared before the committee. The story is compelling, but the allegations leveled against me are false. It's been said that I'm a political insider who rubs shoulders with ADMs. I've been referred to as a man who developed a $500 million business case, and that led to the creation of Shared Services Canada and a lobbyist with extensive government connections in Ottawa.
And these volume
Concerns have
changes
been expressed
are
regarding comments I made about millions of dollars being dropped in the bucket. Mr. Chair and honorable members of the committee, I'm not a lobbyist, nor have I ever been a lobbyist. I have been working as a professional consultant in Ottawa for over 20 years and have made some contacts during that time. However, I do not rub shoulders with ADMs and do not have extensive government connections, nor have I ever claimed to. The suggestion that I am Mr. Firth's mentor is false. I am not Mr. Firth's mentor, nor have I ever been his mentor. I do not know Mr. Firth personally, but I have dealt with him professionally several times over the years. I can't speak to conversations between witnesses and or witnesses and reports as I wasn't privy to them, but I reiterate that the claims and allegations raised against me are false. I'm a professional consultant, husband, and father. As a professional consultant, I work with both public and private sector in the National Capital Area. In public sector, my services include demonstrating how Government of Canada priorities and direction will align with industry standards and best practices, business architecture consolidation, change management, organizational design, and business and IMIT transformations. I met Mr. Firth over 10 years ago and have maintained a professional relationship with him. Mr. Firth contacts me for work opportunities he feels might fit my skill set. Over the past 10 years, I completed 2 separate pieces of work through GC Strategies for CBSA. First, I developed an inventory of transformation projects for the Transformation Office following an industry standard change management principles. Second, identified how CBSA could standardize the adoption of agile project management approach across departments for greater efficiency. It was Mr. Firth who introduced me to Bottler AI and Ms. Dutt and Mr. Moore in November of 2019. In September of this year, Mr. Curry from the Globe and Mail informed me of allegations of fraudulent invoices and resume related to Ms. Dutt, Mr. Moore's engagement on a task authorization which is associated with contract with Dalian and Cortex. I was not listed on the TA nor subcontracted by Ms. Dutt or Mr. Morov to work on the feasibility study. My contract was directly with Bottler AI to provide advisory services, research assistant, document compilation, and report writing.
So, interesting. He said that he's had 2 contracts with GC Strategies. One, which was to provide or to create a inventory of projects for the CBSA. That would take you like a day. Like literally, that's a list. That's basically what he was asked to do. Create a list of the projects that we have. Now, the CBSA is quite large, so maybe that would take you a couple of days to talk to the different stakeholders, the different groups within the organization, and then compile that into a list. But here's the problem with that. That should be done by an internal resource. That's what's called a project coordinator. What a project coordinator is like a junior person in project management that just does administrative work. That's what that was. Now, the problem is this guy probably got paid between $150 and $200 an hour to do that because he has his quote-unquote experience. Remember, the resume fits all these boxes, and that ups the rate that they can actually farm these people out for. So the other telling thing is that Mr. Firth would reach out to me when he found that there was projects that my skill set would benefit. So you got to wonder, okay, well, how much are you getting from that? And you already know that Firth is getting 10 to 30% of whatever this guy's getting, right? So those are some other things to keep in mind. The other thing that he said that he did was roll out agile project management practices across the CBSA. Now, the number one thing that the government is not is agile. And for those who don't know, agile is a project management methodology, and the goal of it is to deliver projects very quickly, hence the name agile. The problem with it is hundreds and hundreds of organizations hear this buzzword and they say, yeah, let's implement agile. They bring these high-priced consultants in. These consultants say, well, here's your templates, here's your presentation, I'll train all your people, and then they leave, and agile doesn't work. Why doesn't it work? Because you need all of the other surrounding business processes in the organization to support it. If they don't do that, agile stops in its tracks because it relies on a complete methodology change within the organization. So agile almost always fails unless you literally roll it out over the period of between 1 and 3 years and change the entire culture at your organization. I won't bore you with the actual details of what agile is, but it's good when it's rolled out properly, but it has to be rolled out at very mature organizations with mature processes. As we know, the government is the opposite of that. So this would have been a really easy, really low effort project for Mr. Brennan to come in and do and get paid a lot of money to do it because people hear agile and they think it's expensive. So this would have been a walk in the park for this guy, and something that he would have had to do not much prep work for and get paid a lot of money to do it, and that's a lot of your taxpayer money. So let's continue.
After our meeting in 2019, I spoke and interacted with Ms. Dutt and Mr. Morov on occasion. I was thrilled to work with Bottler AI, a small Canadian business whose strategy might help the federal government prevent and handle harassment-related issues. I was asked to draft a marketing letter addressed to the Deputy Minister, Krista Freeland. The letter was amended by Bottler AI and GC Strategies, at which point we talked about sending it to the Minister Freeland's Chief of Staff as well. The Government of Canada Employee Directory Services, that's GEDS, that is available to all Canadians on the Government of Canada website was used to make sure Bottler's marketing approach aligned with the hierarchy of DPMO's office. The majority of our marketing discussions were based on hypothetical scenarios. In early 2021, I signed a contract with Bottler AI spanning February 1st to August 1st of 2021 to support Bottler's research and marketing strategies. In total, I invoiced Bottler AI $2,565.10 for my services. It's been stated that I mentioned the licensing fee being a drop in the bucket. While this is accurate, my statement has been misinterpreted. My remarks, was conjectural based on the results review of public available data regarding harassment concerns, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, the Department of National Defence, Correction Services, and Canada Border Service Agency, as well as findings outlined in the Auditor General's report. For example, in September 2022, the Federal Court Canada certified a $1.1 billion class action suit against RCMP for over allegations of bullying and harassment. I was invited to testify before the committee regarding the CBSA ArriveCan app on October 31st, 2023. I initially declined the invitation because the narrative was around the ArriveCan app. I've never worked on ArriveCan. My personal and professional lives have suffered greatly because of attacks on my reputation and integrity over the past several months. This has negatively impacted my wife's, my children's, and my mental health and well-being. Mr. Chair, members of the committee, I thank you for the opportunity to address the claims made about me and to share facts openly and honestly. Thank you.
Openly and honestly? I guess that remains to be seen.
Well, what gets me is Cameron McDonald, Vaughn Brennan, Christian Firth are all making the claim that we don't know each other at all. We work with each other sometimes. Yet they are all responding to this with the exact same narrative. Oh, my mental health. The exact, like almost verbatim.
Yeah, I bet it's stressful to get called out on your BS.
Like, it's just kind of ridiculous. Oh, my feelings. Well, how do you think the feelings of Canadians are when you guys are literally stealing tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars over these projects of our money? How do you think it makes them feel? How do you think it makes, the family feel that can barely afford to put their heat on, where mom and dad are going without food so their kids can eat? How do you think they feel? Like, this is what just drives me nuts. How do you think honest and hardworking Canadians like Ratika Dutt and Amir Moore feel when they're trying to actually build something to combat corruption within the government, and everybody is just trying to take a piece of them, financially and otherwise? How do you think they feel? But it's all you guys. All you guys are the victims. I'm sorry, you have no sympathy for me right off the bat, Mr. Irons.
So I see we've got 925 people watching right now, and we've only got 440 likes. So please hit that like button. It helps push the stream out so more people can see it. We also have a member comment from Mthes, a member for 4 months. It says, contracted by Bottler AI. Let's see that contract. I really hope that we do see that contract. I wonder if they had committee table it.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. A couple other things that we wanted to get to. We have Gary Michaela with a $5 super chat. Please, I need to know if I can sin for a year instead of monthly. I don't want to have the issue with canceled membership again.
For the YouTube memberships, unfortunately, as far as I know, it's only done on a monthly basis. I don't know if Google has support or help or an article for viewers that you can contact and ask.
Yeah, but as far as we know, it's only for a monthly basis, and I think it's because it's to prevent channels from taking yearly memberships and then disappearing. Yeah. Right. Not that we would do that, but there's some Christian Firths out there.
Unsavory characters. Yeah.
Mike St. Jean, welcome to NP supporter. Thank you very much. And I believe I also saw another 10 Northern Perspective memberships gifted by Humble Tracker.
It was 20 Northern Perspective memberships from Humble Tracker. Thank you very much.
So anyway,
so get those likes up. Let's keep going.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brennan. We'll start with Mrs. Kusie for 6 minutes.
Stephanie,
Mrs.
let's
Kusie,
go.
Happy New Year. Please go ahead.
Happy Happy New Year, Chair, and Happy New Year to all committee members who are here today, as well as those who are subbing in. For other committee members, it's a pleasure to have the Government Operations Committee in function once again, and congratulations to everyone on the committee for having it named the best committee in the House of Commons. That's a big achievement for everyone. Mr. Brennan, thank you very much for taking the opportunity to be here today. ArriveCan has plagued this nation. This scandal, Mr. Brennan, is the touchstone of scandal, of a government that has become synonymous with scandal. I could go on and on about other scandals that we've seen, green slush fund, for example, the We charity scandal. And as a result of these scandals, so many individuals, including ministers, including former Liberal ministers, have been thrown under the bus. And this week, in fact, we've seen in the Globe and Mail two public servants have also been thrown under the bus by this Liberal government because we have Liberal ministers who are not willing to take responsibility for their oversight of the ArriveCan scandal in this particular case, which you know has led to a CBSA RCMP investigation, and which continues to plague not only former employees of CBSA Public Safety Department, but individuals throughout the public service as to their willingness to speak up as to what they have seen, their communications with senior executives, and their communications with ministers, Mr. Brennan. The unfortunate thing is, in our uncovering over the fall, the communication which got the most feedback, certainly for me and on my social media, related back to you and back to yourself. And that is your relationship with the Deputy Prime Minister and the Deputy Prime Minister's office. Now, I think that this is only one of many individuals who are implicated in this scandal, not to mention these two individuals which were able to skim $11 million for working in their basement and doing very little, as well as committing, frankly, crimes of fraudulent resume changing, perhaps even collusion. But we are here having you here today because we fundamentally want to get to the who at the highest levels. So my first question for you, Mr. Brennan, and you have began some of this in your testimony. Thank you for doing that. How many executives would you say you personally know in the Canadian Public Service?
Okay, so quite a long lead into that question.
Sounds like she mentioned Freeland.
Yes, she did. DPMO, that's Deputy Prime Minister's Office, by the way. So now you know who the Conservatives are circling the wagons are. It's no Christian Firth. It's no Cameron McDonald. It's no Tony Utano. It's no Vaughn Brennan. They're trying to circle the wagons on Chrystia Freeland.
I hope to get her.
Well, we'll see. Now, she laid a lot of context out there, and it was very carefully laid out from the sounds of it. So she made a point of mentioning Cameron McDonald and Utano. Those are the two public servants she's talking about being thrown under the bus, right? Again, trying to say, we don't blame them. We don't blame you. Help us understand this. Help us, just tell us. Just tell us who's above you. If you've ever seen some of the old crime movies where they bring these low-level crooks into the interrogation room, and they're like, "It's okay, Johnny, just tell us who you work for, and we'll let you go free. It's okay, Johnny. Give him a cup of coffee, Joey." Like that's how this feels. Now he has a choice here. He can start answering questions, or they can bring in bad cop Mr. Brock and see what happens there. So we'll see how this goes, but she's allowed him a friendly opening, a friendly space. Now we see what he says. Before we get to that, John O'Landon, or Jan O'Landon, however you say your name, apologies if I butchered it one way or the other, with a $6.99 super chat. Thank you very much. Love your content, guys. You're doing Canadians a great service. Thank you very much. There's a familiar name, Brian Poplinski with a $6.99 super chat. Thank you. I want to see an instructional breakdancing video hosted by Larry Bruck and Michael Cooper. Oh, that'd be
Those
great.
two are amazing. I love those two.
And Dan Deman 966 gifted 1 Northern Perspective membership. Thank you so much, Dan. All right, Mr.
And we are about, what is that, 350 likes behind? Come on, guys, you can do better. Let's hit that like button, please.
Those 200 likes earned another 100 concurrent viewers, everybody. So we're up to 1,014 by our count. Let's get those likes going and see if we can get up to a new record tonight. So that's on all of you to break that record. Mr. Brennan, it's your show.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the questions. Would you like by title, approximate numbers?
Sure.
So I would say ADMs that I've crossed paths with. I actually did a search in my phone and I found 3.
Okay,
Director
which
Generals,
ones, please? Okay.
I'd have to go back and look, actually.
Okay, which departments, please?
They would have been people I've done work for.
Okay.
So it would have been PSPC. Actually, 2 of the 3 are retired.
Okay.
And as far as DGs go, it would have to be, I think I also found 8, again, projects that I had done in the past.
Okay, 8 individuals or 8 projects? Or 8 projects with
8,
those 3 ADMs?
So 3 projects with those 3 ADMs and 8 projects with DGs that I had contact with. But again, most of those have actually retired. I deal primarily with directors and managers.
Okay, directors and managers. And what would you say the nature of these relationships is that you have with these executives within the federal government?
So because I'm a business architect with change management and a skill set that focuses primarily on business process engineering, it has to do with government resource management. So HR, finance, how we work through reconnecting, if you will, or connecting and consolidating business processes.
But what would there ever be a time where you have more informal meetings, say over coffee, or no never? Okay.
No, never. Primarily the work that I do is literally at the working level.
Okay. Moving on then from executives in the federal government, what connections do you have to current Liberal ministers and their staff?
Absolutely none.
Okay. Then how is it that you were able to connect with the Deputy Prime Minister's office?
Again, I thank you for the question. I never connected with the Deputy Minister's office.
Okay. Then why was it inferred in the media that you did?
Again, it was misquoted.
It was but did you say it? Are you saying what you said wasn't accurate, or you're saying that
it was a text taken out of context?
Okay. What was the what was the actual context of the text if it wasn't that?
The actual context used GEDS, the Government Electronic Directory Service, to identify people in roles that may look at the letter.
So you're saying you have no other connections with any other Liberal ministers. If we were to go through all of your communications, all right then. What?
That's interesting.
Doesn't sound like she believes him.
Well, this guy he's a bit all over the place, actually. And everyone really has to pay attention to what this guy's saying. And you have to have a real good memory. Not that I necessarily do. I have a good short-term memory, but my long-term memory is questionable.
That's true.
So he said earlier that he was brought in to essentially build the marketing strategy. Later, he says, well, I'm a business analyst in change management. Okay. Well, why was a project manager then brought in to do a marketing strategy? Wouldn't you bring in a marketing person?
One would think.
To help do that? And a marketing person who has had contracts within the federal government that has relationships to leverage? It doesn't make sense that a project manager that does administrative work would be brought in to do a marketing strategy if there wasn't a good reason for it. And if it doesn't make sense, as Judge Judy says, it's usually not true. So what you're getting from Brennan now is downplaying everything. I have no connections. I just use this inventory of people and their contact information online, just like anybody else would. Well, then nobody needs you. That's the interesting thing here. If he uses his relationships in his sales pitch to obtain new clients, he's actually doing himself a very big disservice right here by saying, I don't really have any relationships at all to leverage. So it's very interesting the way he's just completely downplaying this. And if, assuming he does have connections, he's probably hoping, or he's been told, you better not involve us or you're not going to get any business with the federal government ever again. That's my speculation as to what's happened behind the scenes here.
We want to thank Trish Prue with a $50 super chat. It says, "Hello, Cypher and Fox. I get to go to a meet and greet on Sunday with Pierre. If I get to ask him a question, should I ask him, when you become PM at the next election, would you make Larry Brock Attorney General? Vancouver got 1 foot of snow today." Yeah, I mean, when we went to meet Pierre, we actually got to ask him a couple questions. So I think that would be a great one, and maybe think of a few that, maybe impact you directly. What are you going to do about X issue, which I'm very passionate about, for example? And that is a lot of snow. I'm glad we're not in Vancouver.
Indeed. And Gary Michaela with 5 Northern Perspective gifted memberships. Thank you very, very much. So let's continue.
I'm afraid that is our time,
Okay,
Mrs.
thank you
Kusie.
so much.
Mr. Sousa, over to you, please, for 6.
Oh, Lord.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and welcome, everyone. It's good to see everyone since last year. Mr. Brennan, thank you for being here today and talking about what is accurate and what is misinformation.
Talking about,
And
I don't know
from
what you're talking
telling
about.
us at the outset is that you haven't had any direct contact with ministers and or elected officials in regards to the work you do. Am I accurate in that?
Chair, thank you for the question. That's absolutely accurate. Thank you.
And that,
If that's accurate, then he should just leave because there's nothing else to talk about. Diane Sylvain with a $100 super chat. Thank you so much, Diane. Happy anniversary. So happy I found your channel. 2024 will bring in justice and the rule of law. Getting there. Thank you for all you do, Cypher. Great imitation of the old crime series low-level guy being interrogated, and we are dealing with the mafia. I don't disagree, Diane.
Amazing.
Not at all.
Thank you so much, Diane. We actually did an interview with Diane a couple weeks ago, Cypher.
Yep.
So if you guys want to check that out after the live stream, just go back 3 or 4 weeks and you'll find it there. It's this the thumbnail where Trudeau's behind bars.
It's called Law and Disorder. So have a look at that if you want to get the perspective and the thoughts of a former Crown prosecutor for the federal government. So thank you very much, Diane, for doing that.
And I see we're still about 300 likes behind. Please hit that like button for us. It helps push the stream out.
And we're up to 1,100 concurrent viewers. That's awesome, everybody. Let's see if we can get that even higher.
as you know, the investigation that's proceeding is internal as well as with the RCMP regarding Bottler, not ArriveCan. That's not under investigation.
Oh my God,
However,
he's
the consequences of some of what's being discussed in this committee brings caution in terms of how things are operating. We want to make certain that they're done appropriately.
Like nobody
And
asked.
of course, we take that very seriously. Have you been contacted by RCMP?
Chair, thank you for the question. Absolutely. No, I have not been contacted by RCMP nor any auditors.
Oh, Sousa.
The dude says Sousa de Lusa. Yeah,
Yeah, he's
100%.
He's the loser. That's
I
for sure.
do not like that guy.
Hey, Sousa, you're a loser, man. So, God, he's just perpetually pushing this narrative of this has nothing to do with ArriveCan. You're something else, Sousa, because this investigation, it has everything to do with every purchase practice within the federal government. That's what's in scope here. It's how are contracts procured and how How are they evaluated? How are they awarded? And what is the monetary value of these? And how much are these contractors skimming off the top? That's really what the investigation is about here. So ArriveCan is part of that investigation. As much as you want to say that it's not, yes, it absolutely is part of that investigation.
Even contacted by any investigators in regards internally or anything?
No, I have not.
Okay. And so the advice that you provided Butler, and you said a little bit at the outset of having some discussions, and I think their goal is to expand their pilot program to government departments. I mean, they came to be because Butler didn't have. So explain to us how that came to be. Like, what it was the advice that you were providing for them.
So Sousa can't even explain what happened because he hasn't been paying attention, and he was trying to say Butler didn't have anything, which we know that they did. Otherwise, why would Cameron McDonald and Christian Firth have been chasing Butler in the first place, right? So it's not like Butler just came banging on the door of the federal government. They were off doing their own thing, and they got a LinkedIn message from Christian Firth. And how do we know that? Because they have it. Like, it's been provided in evidence. So it's just funny how these guys try and spin this narrative.
So, Chair, thank you for the question. I was introduced to Butler through GC Strategies. My background is actually in business process reengineering. So I was engaged, again, I'll pull up the exact, to provide advisory, research, and document compilation and report writing to Butler. As far as the whatever it is business they signed, I don't know if it's a pilot project, a proof of concept, or a feasibility study. I've heard 3.
Yeah, and I wanted to expand.
What? No, you don't get to say that. You absolutely don't get to say that, Mr. Brennan. You're saying you were contracted from February to August of 2021, and you were paid $2,200, and you're alleging that your job in that was the marketing strategy, document compilation, and some other administrative work. And you're trying to tell me you have no idea the contract that they signed? You don't get to say that. And the only reason you wouldn't have an answer is either you're lying or you literally didn't talk to them at all. So, no, you don't get to say that. As a project manager, everybody, the project manager, a good one, knows the project inside and out. They know it better than any of the resources that are working on the project. They know the communication, they know the technical tasks, they know what tasks are being done, when they're being done, who's involved, who has been contacted, who hasn't, because they handle everything. So for this guy to sit there and be like, well, I don't really know, then it just validates something else that Butler said, which is this guy was brought in, they don't know why, and he hardly did any work. Well, those statements validate that statement, that you have no idea what contract that Butler even signed in the first place. Wow. Okay. Thank you for that admission by omission. Rhonda Davey with a $5 super chat. I hate how they pose their questions in such a way that they are spoon-feeding him what answers that he should give. Yep, well, that's the liberal way. I don't expect the NDP to take that stance because they haven't taken that stance so far in ArriveCan, and we've seen Mr. Singh increasing his distancing efforts on X and social media lately. So I expect Mr. Johns, who's no doubt going to be questioning in this, as he has in the other committee meetings, to be taking a hard line at this, just as the Conservatives are. And Pam Lambert, member for 1 month, thank you very much. He doesn't lie. He is a fibber. There you go.
And upon that, because there was no contract, from what I understand. Or did you understand that? Did you understand that they had a contract or did not have a contract with government?
I understood that Butler and GC Strategies was working with CBSA.
And so was your impression that they had a contract at that point?
Thank you for the question. Yes.
And so you're providing advisory work
To
for
Bottler
Bottler
specifically.
to do an application, to
For
write.
their business, yes. So they are in the space of looking at proactive managing harassment in the workplace.
So was there a directive that they received from government to do this? Like, how did you premise it? Or did you just hear from them as to what you needed to do?
I heard from them. Again, I signed a small contract with Bottler to provide them consulting services.
But I'm trying to understand, because to your point, we have some misinformation as to what they were there to do.
This is funny because Sousa is unwittingly kind of exposing that this guy has no idea what Bottler was doing. He's trying to give him softballs, and Brennan is whiffing on them. Because he's saying, well, okay, so what was there to do? Well, I don't really. Okay, well, you were. Did they have a contract? Well, I think so. Like, I go back to, I think I need to make that into a button I can push. The consultants from Office Space. What is it that you do here? Like, Brennan, what is it that you do here, buddy? Because Sousa is he's playing t-ball with you and you're missing the ball.
What was their role with government? Because we're hearing conflicting issues on that too, that they put forward a huge, let's call it a Cadillac, when they were only looking for a tricycle. Like, a lot of work was done.
Look, I don't know.
Like, do you understand how that came to be?
Thank you for the question, Chair. I can't comment because I don't know the business that Bottler. You could have to ask Bottler directly.
What?
Oh my goodness.
30 seconds ago, he was brought in to say, well, I was brought in to consult with their business. And 30 seconds later, he's saying, I don't really know the business. What?
Isn't that your job to know the business?
What? Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Dude, you didn't even show up for your first meeting. You think an extra month would have allowed you to prep better for this? Or really was your strategy to come in here and look like a useless idiot that has no idea what he's doing? You think you had mental health problems before. When organizations out there see this as essentially an interview to work for them, they're going to say, hell no.
This guy doesn't know anything. Why are we paying him?
Holy.
Yikes.
And the reason why I saw some of the questions, like Sousa's actually asking good questions. I don't think Sousa wants to be asking good questions but he's having to because Brennan isn't getting it. He isn't picking up on these softballs. So he's actually having to ask more and more specific questions, which Brennan is further not answering. So this is interesting.
I want to say thank you to KG for a $2.79 super chat. And also, we're still almost 300 likes behind, so please hit that like button for us.
Fair enough. Your clients, your business. So you have dealt with GC Strategies in the past. So you were approached by GC?
Yes. So in my world, in my business of consulting services, I work with what I call tier ones, which are the big solution firms, the Deloittes, the PricewaterhouseCoopers. They use me to round out the solution set or skill set of their solutions team.
Not anymore.
Or I go to a tier two, and those are companies like GC Strategies that will contact me when they feel that there's an opportunity that fits my skill set.
In your advisory role with this particular project, did you have any discussions with other contractors? Because GC Strategies and Bottlers weren't the ones that were contracted here. They were subcontractors.
Okay. Yeah, no, I did not.
So that was your only point of contact was with GC Strategies and then Bottler directly.
Well, Bottler primarily because I was contracted to Bottler, but I was not contracted through GC Strategies. I was contracted directly with Bottler.
With Bottler.
Okay, well, I'm just going to pause for a couple of housekeeping items. So we have Dan Demand 966 with a $5 super chat. You should have a Garnet Genuous button of what is it that you do?
Yes, that was amazing.
That's not a bad idea. Alice Avonlea member for 3 months. Thank heavens I don't drink coffee tonight, Fox. There you go.
Yeah, I'm drinking some coffee right now. Going to be a long one, so hang tight.
Here we go.
And don't forget to hit that like button. It's our birthday.
Fair enough. So your contribution to this project was at one point, and your bill was $2,000 plus.
Yes, my contribution wasn't specifically to the project. It was specifically to help them understand, if you will, how the business so information architecture, very specific to what data and artificial intelligence is trying to map to. Treasury Board has a number of directives, if you will, and strategies that they would like everybody to follow. So purposely, my role was to help Bottler understand what those strategies were from Treasury Board, whether they're IMIT, security, or data strategies. There was actually something in the works, I won't get into detail, but the Treasury Board was working on for AI.
So you're never really, are you contacted directly by Treasury Board or any ministries to do work? Or is it always through a contractor?
It's always through, I call them my paper. I put, they're the contracting vehicle for me.
I mean the Deloitte and so forth.
Yes.
Yeah, that is our time, gentlemen. Thanks very much, Mr. Sousa. Mrs. Vignola, please, for 6 minutes.
Oh, nice. One of the good black people.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much. Sorry for the delay. Mr. Brennan, good afternoon. Colleagues, Happy New Year. Mr. Brennan, Kilav Consulting was registered in the lobbying registry. You said that you are not a lobbyist, but is the company registered on the lobby?
Merci pour votre question.
I'm not registered in the lobby. That is not my business.
Wait a minute. So your business is registered in the lobby, but you're saying, I'm not registered in the lobby. That is not my business. Okay. Let's see where you're going with this.
Perfect. Thank you. Just as my colleague, Mr. Sousa, said, this study is not looking at the contract with Butler AI or at GC Strategies, but we are focused on ArriveCan, and that's it. The situation with Butler AI revealed a practice that was done by the Government of Canada that raises concerns on a number of subjects: overbilling, multiple middlemen, companies and intermediaries, and other mechanisms regarding expense oversight, and especially results in this regard. You are involved in a number of these fields. What could the Government of Canada do to improve the contracting activities with regard to AI and tech markets, despite the high number of intermediaries and problems associated with overbilling?
Chair, thank you for the question. From an industry perspective, I hazard to go there only because I'm not an expert. I'm still doing a data science course. From a Government of Canada perspective, I have to comment in.
Did I catch that?
What?
He's not an expert. He's still doing, what was it?
A data science course, but he was contracted to help tell Butler
What to do?
how to map their data according to Treasury Board practices.
But he doesn't even have any professional training in it yet, is what it sounds like.
Correct. What? So he is becoming more useless by the minute that he speaks. This would actually be more helpful to him if he just nodded his head or shook his head at this point. This is pretty I've never seen unintentional self-sabotage like this and oblivious self-sabotage like this. Since Chrystia Freeland. Justin Brown with a 279 super chat. Thank you very, very much, Justin, for that. It's much appreciated. And Don Wickenden with 5 Northern Perspective gifted memberships. Thank you, Don. That is very much appreciated. Everybody, make sure you give love to the people that actually got your memberships today, assuming that you're receiving them.
And because it's our birthday, here's 5 more memberships for everybody.
There you go. So everybody thank Fox. All right, let's hear some more self-destruction, Mr. Brennan.
Again, give kudos to the Treasury Board for stepping up and starting to address the AI and the AI space. It does pose a lot of opportunities for the federal government.
OK. Donc, ce que je comprends.
Okay, so if I understand correctly here, you cannot suggest any improvement whatsoever with regard to the procedure, with the contracting procedures.
Oh, sorry, Chair, I misunderstood. Thank you for the clarification. To be candid with you, it is a space that I try to stay away from, and that's why I go through these other firms. It's actually quite a bit of overhead for me. If I were to go and open my company and try to contract directly with the federal government, it would be considerably more overhead than I can manage while I try to actually do consulting.
Remember, one of the things he said, everybody, was he was an expert in process architecture. He was asked to comment on potential suggestions and efficiencies that could be made to the contract process. And his response to that was, "Oh, well, I don't want to get into that. It's much simpler for me to have other people contract me out than, for me to actually do that at my own company."
How does that make any sense?
You don't want to read email? You don't want to respond to an email saying, "Yeah, sure, I'd like to interview for that"? Are you kidding me? No, because you have these buddies that keep throwing you easy contracts that involve virtually no work, or sometimes no work at all, but then you get paid for it. Why not? Don Wickenden with a $5 super chat. Thank you so much, sir. Happy anniversary, Cypher and Fox. P.S. What are the drinking game rules tonight?
Oh, so we haven't seen this yet, so we have no idea. We don't want to pick something that's like going to give everybody alcohol poisoning. So the rules are be safe.
Well, if you want to play, then I would suggest every time Mr. Brennan essentially says, "I don't know," then take a drink of water just to be safe.
There you go. Yes, stay hydrated.
So I have no suggestions because I purposefully stay away from it.
Take a drink.
Your answer is reveals quite a bit of information here, because you say that when a company does business with the federal government, they have to fill out an application, and this results in important costs. From the point of view of a small business, it can be difficult to do so. I know that calls for proposals require 75 pages and dozens of pages of documents from businesses, so I understand. I thank you for confirming that.
Okay. So, because we're all about facts here, what Vignola just said there is correct. If you do want to do business directly with the federal government, there is an initial headache that you have to go through. You have to fill out a bunch of paperwork in order to actually be registered on buy and sell, and have the government be able to select you as a authorized vendor for any sort of contract. But once you get through that, you're in. So as long as you're willing to take, the time to actually do that and get in there, then you're in. I know small businesses which are registered on buy and sell. Yeah, it was a bit of a pain, and it's an inefficient process, but once they're in there, they're in. So, let's not make this bigger than it is. Niluk with a $5 super chat, your 10th on a live stream. Happy anniversary. I can't express how much this channel has changed my perspective on things. Thanks so much. Also, this guy is an idiot.
He sure is. And thank you very much for the anniversary wishes.
Situation with Butler AI also revealed that the government's contracting procedures with Indigenous businesses can be circumvented by working with partially Indigenous owned companies. I know that you are not directly dealing with the Government of Canada, that you deal with businesses. Nevertheless, with regard to procedures, you have some expertise with contracting, or rather with the above mentioned procedures. How can the government ensure that the benefits are surfaced properly with regard to Indigenous businesses in Indigenous communities? Can your outside expertise clear up the air a bit?
Chair, thank you very much for the question, and thank you for this question in particular. As a consultant, again, I have no visibility to a company's bid and what they are. I'm one of many that would go into an RFP, if you will. If I could suggest that the resource bid is the resource hired. Often, or at least if a minimum that resource that is bid on that RFP, that they be offered the first right of refusal. I can give you so many examples of where my CV was used to win business, and I didn't find out weeks later that they had substituted either an employee or a colleague or another consultant or changed the terms and conditions. So I would absolutely ask, and I call it resource bid is resource hired. That way, at least the federal government would get the resource that they're looking for and the resource, the quality they're looking for, as well as what they're paid for.
C'est quand même assez intéressant.
It's all very interesting what you're saying here. It also reveals quite a lot about the purpose of this study. We are looking at resources that are being spent on a certain contract and that are not being spent on another contracts, and that nevertheless those resources have been allocated. If I understand what you're saying that you're not part of the task authorization process. You have not worked directly on the application, on the pilot project of the application, that is, with regard to sexual harassment. And you say that you do not personally know anyone whatsoever in the DPMO. And
Vignola, you're out of time. Could you wrap up a quick question, please?
Oui. Donc, rapidement.
Quickly, what explains, or rather, how do you explain that some people are saying the exact opposite of what I've just said?
And for that, Mr. Brennan, I'm going to ask you either provide it in writing or perhaps Ms. Vignola's next round, you can answer that. Mr. Johns for 6 minutes, please.
Okay, NDP's up next. Before we get to that, Ms. Ratika Dutt with her first super chat on a live stream. Thank you for it being on Northern Perspective. Happy first birthday, Northern Perspective. Cypher and Fox, thank you for everything you are doing to bring truth and hope for a better future to all Canadians. And thank you to the entire Northern Perspective community for all your love and support. We're so humbled. Thank you so much, Ratika and Amir, for all of the courageous work you both are doing. And Jerry Michaela with a $5 super chat. Thank you very, very much, sir.
And that also means that Ratika's in the live chat somewhere. So if you guys want to say hi or say thank you, now's a good chance.
Oh, they have been. They've been saying hello to both
Excellent.
of them. So, someone's saying, "Hey, Clyde." Does that mean Clyde's in here? I don't know if I've seen him. So,
did you get the super chat from Brian Pask?
I don't think so. Go ahead and read that one.
All right, Brian Pask with a $27.99 super chat. Thank you very much. It says, keep up the great work and let's all support Butler AI. Absolutely.
And Daphne Devine with a 5 Northern Perspective gifted memberships. Thank you very much, Daphne. Everybody passing out presents tonight. This is awesome. Tech 1982, member for a month. Thank you so much for the gift. You're very welcome. And Diane Sylvain with another $5 super chat. I just have to share that Brennan reminds me of Dracula with his behavior and how he is dressed.
Yeah.
If only he was as charming and as articulate as Dracula.
And we also have a $5 super chat from Jerry Michaela. It says, oh, there's no message. If you did mean to type a message, just let Barnaby know and we'll read it for you. Thank you.
There you go. Let's continue.
Well, again, Happy New Year to everybody on the committee.
Gord Johns, not Drew
Nice to
Johns.
see you all.
Drew Johns is our guy.
Mr. Brennan, can you talk about what your relationship is with Mr. Christian Firth?
I have
Thank
no
you for the
relationship.
question. Purely professional. He calls me when he has opportunities that might fit my skill set.
Okay, what did you mentor him in?
I never mentored Christian Firth.
Okay. Have you ever made statements that, quote, I am loyal to Christian?
Not to my knowledge, no. I have, with the Tier 2 community, I have several relationships or business relationships.
Okay. In terms
actually, let me recant. I can tell you that when I was approached by Bottler to go direct, I asked Bottler to have a conversation with GC Strategies because Christian introduced me. So that would be the only way I would have ever mentioned I am loyal, but I'm not loyal business-wise. It's a way that he introduced me. I don't know what the relationship was with Bottler at the time.
So here's the problem, everybody. So the NDP are asking good questions. When Mr. John says, oh, so you've never said you were loyal? You've never been quoted as... That literally means they have evidence in front of them that someone has provided, wink, wink, they may be in the chat, over the time that, they've been interacting with these people, that they've said certain things and provided this to committee. So, I've never said that. Let me recant because it's obvious you have that in writing. So I have to think of a situation to try and explain that away. If you just say, communicate through GC Strategies, that's very, very different than saying I'm loyal to Christian. Very, very different.
And we have a $20 super chat from Trish Prue. Thank you very much. It says, drinking game. Every time he tells the truth in a straightforward manner, you take a drink. Happy anniversary, you both rock, and I am so grateful to Clyde Do Something for letting me know about your channel.
And enjoy your sobriety, because I don't think we're going to get much truth tonight.
Thank you very much, Trish.
Okay. Have you ever worked on one government project and invoiced for that work on another government project?
Thank you for the question, Chair. Absolutely not.
Similar work?
Absolutely not.
Have you ever double invoiced for the same work?
I absolutely have not.
Okay, so I'm just going to quote some excerpts from a call from Mr. Firth on January 26, 2021.
Uh-oh.
Again, these guys don't ask questions that they don't already know the answer to. Not the good ones, at least, anyways. And you know what? I do like this guy. He may be NDP, but he seems genuine.
Yeah.
Regarding yourself, Mr. Firth states, quote, Vaughn's got paid well to be able to do this. So it's like, gives them an opportunity to double dip, right? End quote. Do you want to comment on that?
Chair, thank you for the question. I can't comment on third parties. I can't comment on his quote.
What?
Interesting. All right. I don't know if this is correct, and I'm sure we'll find out later. But you know what this sounds like, everybody? This sounds like... Okay, remember that Bottler was told that Mr. Vaughn was going to be paid by the CBSA. In actual fact, Bottler paid him. Now, the double dipping that Firth is talking about, this sounds like Vaughn might be being paid by the CBSA and Bottler for the same project. Wouldn't that be interesting?
For the same project where he does absolutely nothing?
But yeah.
That's the one?
Yeah, that one.
Yeah? Okay.
So that's where that previous question of have you ever double invoiced for the same project? I think that's where that's going.
And before we get back to it, we've got exactly 1,000 likes and 1,179 people watching. If you haven't hit the thumbs up button, please do it for us because it's our birthday.
See if we can get to 1,200 concurrent viewers with all those likes. Thank you very much, everybody.
Why would he say that? Like, why would he say something like that?
That would be his business opinion.
Okay, but do you find that, somewhat suspicious and pretty alarming, being that he's quoting yourself? He's
Yeah.
talking about you.
Again, I can't comment.
Okay, all right. Were you
Cantor
named
won't.
on the Bottler task authorization 2021002043?
Chair, thank you for the question. No, I was not.
Okay, so under which contractual agreement or task authorization did you reach out to the CBSA's Vice President of Transformation?
I did not reach out to the Vice President of CBSA's transformation.
Uh-oh.
Survey says.
Uh-oh. Dude, are you not paying attention? When they ask so specific questions like that, they already know that you did something. And this looks like his oh crap face. So, yeah. I did not reach out to the VP of Transformation. Now he's checking to say, oh, I hope I didn't.
We keep pausing him at the most ridiculous faces.
Yeah, well, he's he's what's it called? He's poor man's Dracula, or he's the Dracula you order from Wish online. I don't know.
Okay, so here's another excerpt from an email from Mr. Brennan from yourself on March 9th, 2021.
Uh-oh.
It says, quote, just a heads up in that I've reached out to a group under the Transformational Vice President in Organizational Culture and Change Management to get their feedback and any possible insights. Then later it states, I'm working with the Change Management Office with a colleague to set up a meeting with the Culture Office, end quote. Maybe you can speak to that.
Absolutely. That was the first task authorization that I mentioned, which was for the inventory of transformation projects. I was already on that contract.
Okay. So what was the nature of your relationship with the former Deputy Minister, Mr. Azowski?
None.
None.
No, I never
Okay.
I never communicated. I never got to communicate.
Remember, Osowski is the president of the CBSA during the time that Bottler was contracted in to do this work. The current president is Erin Ogerman, and she came in 2022, summer of 2022, after ArriveCan was over, conveniently enough.
Have you ever transferred internal government information or communications to third parties who are not the intended recipients?
Uh-oh.
You would have to clarify. I don't understand
Okay,
the question.
I will. So on March 25th, 2021, you forwarded an internal CBSA email from the president to Bottler and Firth. The excerpt from the email, it's with, quote, it's with mixed emotions that we announced the departure of Pat Boucher, Vice President and Chief Transformation Officer from the agency. Pat's last day at the agency will be April 19th, 2021. Genevieve Bennett, the Director General of Enterprise Transformation at CTLB, will be assuming his responsibilities on an interim basis. We know we can count on your full support for Genevieve and CTBOB in this time of transformation. So was this not something that, in my original question about transferring internal government information or communications to third parties who are not the intended recipients?
It's a sharing of knowledge.
Okay, what's your involvement with the Department of National Defense?
I started my career inside of Lockheed way back when, but to be candid, when it came the last time I worked at National Defense, I believe it was 2016,
Okay.
and it was on the defense renewal.
So
interesting question there from Johns. Have you ever transferred government communication to third parties who weren't the intended audience of it? So, yeah, that can be a problem in government. So there was obviously a memo sent from John Osowski to the CBSA. No doubt I'm speculating, no doubt the person that sent Mr. Vaughn that was either Cameron McDonald or Mr. Firth by way of Cameron McDonald. That's my speculation. And then that was sent on to Butler. He's technically not allowed to do that, especially if there's a disclaimer at the bottom of the email, which it probably was, saying that this information is private and is only intended to be shared or viewed by, so Cameron McDonald would have, committed a faux pas at that point, as well as Mr. Vaughn here for distributing that as well. So, yeah, that's interesting. I'm wondering if that's a setup question for something else that's coming down the road.
Who is your good friend from, General Jonathan Holbert Vance, the Chief of Defense Staff's office? Because there's an excerpt from an email from you on February 5th, 2021. He says, a good friend has been in the Vice's office for 18 years. Who are you referring to?
That person's retired.
Who is it?
It was a lady. It was the lady who was an executive assistant.
What's her name?
I can't recall her name, actually.
A good friend that's been in the Vice's office for 18 years. You can't remember who it is. You're under oath. I'm sorry, Mr.
Yes,
Chair.
Yeah, no,
I
think her first name is Joanne, but
Can you put that in writing to this committee? I believe that, you're citing that it was a good friend in the Vice's office. You're being asked a direct question. Now you can barely remember the person's first name. It doesn't sound right. It sounds like a lot of witness testimony we've had at this committee where people just refuse to answer.
Wow.
Okay. When Gord Johns is coming at you, yeah.
Yeah, he's usually, he seems at least like he's pretty even keel. And now he's pissed.
Yeah, Diane, you are under oath, Dracula. Answer the question.
But, seriously, this guy can't remember this person's name. I remember my best friend's name from grade school. I'm not going to tell you what it is because it's probably one of my password recoveries somewhere. But still, you remember that stuff for the rest of your life.
I remember almost every single colleague that I've worked with that I had a quote-unquote close professional relationship with. So, yeah, but again, I just come back to Gord Johns is getting lippy with him. That's something to say. The NDP is not backing down from this. It's nice to see.
And I know the chat is asking, the current likes are at 1,065, and we've got just over 1,200 people viewing. So please hit the like button for us because it's our birthday.
Excellent. All right, let's see what happens.
It's not that I'm
going to interrupt here, Mr. Brennan. Sorry, that is our time. Mr. Johns has a point, though. Would you be able to get back to the committee with the name of that person, please? We're going to go to Mr. Brock now for 5 minutes, please.
Uh-oh.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you,
good
Chair.
afternoon, Mr. Brennan. A couple of loose threads that I want to continue
I will destroy you!
discussing with you based on questions you've received from colleagues. I get the overall impression that you wish to distance yourself from any formal or informal relationship with Mr. Christian Firth. And I can probably understand your motivation to do that.
Yeah, no kidding.
Given that he's testified twice at this committee, his credibility is certainly an issue. He's been caught in a number of lies, and he's under investigation by the RCMP. So I'm going to give you an opportunity, sir, to reflect on my comments as I ask you further questions about your relationship with Mr. Firth.
He's being
But before I do that, I want to go back to the original Bill Curry article in the Globe and Mail from early October that really sets out towards the latter end of the article about your involvement in the Bottler controversy and scandal with the government, and specifically the reporter reached out to you. You indicated to the reporter that your reference to having inside knowledge was a fabrication. You clarified that and you said you fibbed FIBBED in an effort to put pressure on Ms. Dutt to take more action on the file. Now, we're all adults in the room. The last time I heard the word fibbed was in relation to my 5-year-old twins. They're 14 now, but they certainly don't use the word fibbed. I use the word lied. So do you admit, sir, that you definitely lied to Ms. Dutt to take so-called action on the file? Is that correct? Am I reading that correctly?
Now, wow. Again, Brock with the he opens so well.
Yeah, he's not like animated right now, but you can tell he's not happy.
Well, he's so tired of these witnesses, these just really, really sketchy people coming to committee and just trying to pull a once-over on the committee. And, by virtue of that, the Canadian taxpayer. These are all people that are just leeches on the dollar that you earn on every hour of every day. And it's what people like Brock, who are true seekers of justice, it just pisses them off to the nth degree. And I know Diane feels the exact same way because she said as much on the episode that we recorded with her. And this is it comes all back to, why did Bottler come forward in the first place? It's because they saw this waste happening and they didn't feel it was right. So that's I think that what really motivates Brock when he comes in here. And again, he says, okay, I can understand you want a distance from people. So that was our impression as well. So I'm glad he's getting the same impression. And two, he's opening his question by saying, so you're an admitted liar, right? And that's going to set the tone for the rest of the committee when it comes to the Conservative questioning.
Thank you for the question. No, I did not lie. There were conversations, open conversations around the use of GEDs, and that is what I used to identify people inside of the DPMO.
I'm going to stop you right there. You said you didn't lie, but you used the word fibbed. What's your definition of fibbed?
Well, if they don't recall the conversation, then the interpretation would be that I fibbed.
What? If they don't recall the conversation, the interpretation would be that I fibbed. No, Brennan. The quote wasn't from Bottler in the article. Pay attention. The quote was from you in talking to Bill Curry. And you said that you fibbed. Oh, Brock's not going to like this.
No, he's not. Let's watch.
Sir, you're quoted as saying, I fibbed in an effort to put pressure on Ms. Dutt to take more action on the file. You are admitting this to Bill Curry, a reporter for the Globe and Mail. If that's not a definition of a lie, I don't know what is. What is your definition of fibbed?
He's boned.
You'd have some great...
Oh my God. He must be related to Chrystia Freeland. And he kind of looks like the male version of Chrystia Freeland now that I look at him.
Chrystia Freeland looks like the male version of Chrystia Freeland.
Yeah, but oh my goodness. He's like, oh shit. Oh shit. Maybe I should have listened better and, bought him a better headset at Best Buy. Oh man, you're screwed. Like, no, what? You know what? This guy hangs out with Christian first. Should we really be surprised?
Great difficulty in this because you want to maintain your credibility, sir. But you've admitted to a reporter that you lied to your client, that you had a contractual relationship with.
And now you're lying to committee.
We had marketing discussions based on hypothetical scenarios.
You deliberately lied to Ms. Dutt, a principal owner of Bottler AI, who had a contractual relationship with you to do a service on their behalf to make a connection with the government. And now you've admitted to all of Canada, and certainly this committee, and to Bill Curry, that you deliberately lied to her. You wanted to exaggerate, correct?
Chair, thank you for the question. That's incorrect. Ms. Dutt was part of those conversations and well understood that we were doing, that it was a marketing effort. and that we had several hypothetical scenarios given the workplace harassment management and GCAI adoption strategy were still evolving.
He's reading, by the way. He has some talking points that he's reading. He looks up to his right. He's looking at a monitor, like another monitor. I think my guess is he has a laptop right in front of him that explains the point of view, the camera quality,
The mic quality.
And well, he's talking through his headset.
Oh, yeah, I guess.
But he seems to be looking up and locking his gaze up to his right when he's getting into some specific lines that he's talking about. He doesn't stammer, so he has some specific talking points that he's kind of prepared for himself. That's just my take on his body language here. And again, the problem is it's not matching the question. Like, sorry, you can't pivot from that. You can't go from telling Bill Curry, well, I fibbed to try and exaggerate, to, well, Miss Dutt was part of those discussions, and it was well understood that this was a marketing discussion based on blah, 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 blah. No. Just because Miss Dutt was in discussions doesn't mean you were not lying to her during those discussions. Or you lied to Bill Curry because you actually do have these relationships and you don't want anybody to know about them. I'm leaning towards the first one.
So did you lie to Bill Curry then by saying that you lied to Ms. Dutt? Is that a lie upon a lie?
It wasn't a lie upon a lie, sir. It was basically not trying
to get... It's your definition of fibbed. Okay, I'll take that. I don't know if Canadians will, but I'll accept that for the purposes of the time that I have. You then further respond to Bill Curry in an email and a follow-up phone call, and you quote, and you're quoted as saying, I did not and do not have any contacts within the Liberal government, nor in the PCO. Now, setting aside the PCO, based on what I've heard so far for the past 1/2 hour, that statement, again, would be a lie because you've already referenced a number of government officials. It's not just, as you put it, I deal directly with directors and managers. You've dealt directly with deputy ministers, assistant deputy ministers, if not ministers themselves. So why are you continuing to lie, sir, is the question I put to you.
And I have to cut you off there, Mr. Brock, and I'm sorry, Mr. Brennan, you'll have to respond in Mr. Brock's next intervention. Mr. Jouari, welcome back. Happy New Year. 5 minutes, please.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's the problem. That's the problem when you say, well, I didn't have any... He in the Globe and Mail article, he was trying to put as much distance as far away from himself and this story as humanly possible. And probably didn't think, I'm going to be summoned to committee. Guaranteed he didn't think that. But this is the problem.
Well, these guys didn't think they'd get caught to begin with.
No. But when you start lying, that's a problem. So then he says, well, so why did you lie to Ratika Dutt? Well, I didn't lie to Ratika. Okay, so then you lied to Bill Curry. You can't have it both ways. Like, it's like, you can't be pregnant and not pregnant at the same time. It's not possible. So good luck with that, guy. And you still have the rest of the people coming at you now. All right, well, now, next questioner is a Liberal. In the last couple of ArriveCan meetings, he actually has asked some, by Liberal standards, decent questions. To the point where it seemed like Sousa was looking at him saying, dude, what are you doing? We're on the Liberal team. Did you take the Conservative questions and bring them in here? You're supposed to have the Liberal questions. So we'll see how he does tonight.
And we're still about 150 likes behind, so please hit that like button for us.
And we're one viewer down from 1,300 concurrent viewers, everybody. So let's get up there.
I think it's our biggest stream yet.
I think so. Happy birthday.
Thank you, Chair. Happy New Year to all my colleagues and all the staff. Mr. Brennan, I'm going to frame my questions to you over the next 5 minutes around three three different pillars. Number one, I want to start with ArriveCan, which is really the focus of this study. So,
Not according to Sousa.
A number of quick questions. Sir, did you ever work on ArriveCan?
Chair, thank you for the question. No, I did not.
Okay. Did you have any type of discussion with GC Strategies or anybody at CBSA whatsoever that had anything to do with ArriveCan?
Chair, thank you for the question. No, I did not.
Are you aware of any investigation ArriveCan by RCMP, or have you been approached by RCMP as it relates to ArriveCan?
Chair, thank you again for the question. No, I have not.
Looks like you got the liberal
so
questions this
nothing to do with ArriveCan, which is really the focus of this committee right now under this study. So thank you for that. The next area that I want to focus is Butler AI. So your relationship with Butler AI, as you identify, was that you were hired on a separate contract by Butler AI to provide a consulting services for a period of, I think, from February 1st to, I believe you said
August 1st.
August 1st, for the total sum of $2,565.10. Can you briefly tell us what was the scope of that work?
Yeah, please tell everybody.
Under the contract, I can't identify specifics, but I can say that, again, it was primarily for research, document compilation, and report writing.
Okay. So it is alleged that you boasted about your relationship to be able to secure a $2,565.10 contract. Can you comment on that, sir?
I can't comment. To your point, that would seem very ludicrous that I would do that.
Okay, so have you been contacted? Are you aware that there's an investigation by RCMP as well, an internal investigation by CBSA around Butler AI?
Again, Chair, thank you so much for the question. No, I am not aware of any RC. I've not been contacted by them or auditors.
You're not aware that the RCMP is investigating this? Bullshit! Give me a break. Either that or you are that much more incompetent. Like, that's an easy one. Everybody knows. Everybody knows it's not even connected and is literally hundreds and hundreds of kilometers away from this. Thousands in some cases. You're like doing work for these people and you're not aware. You don't know your buddy is under investigation by the RCMP? Really? Come on.
Okay, so you've not been contacted by RCMP. You're not contacted by internal audit, anyone in there, and as you suggested, is at least the way you explained, the Butler AI $2,565.10 for some sort of consulting. There was somehow this urge to be able to boast about your relationship with ADM, which looks like was around three other projects. Okay, so let's go talk about the third and the final frame that I want to, or areas that I want to focus on, which was your responses to the media, and why media would frame something like this.
That's not us.
That you have a relationship with somehow the Minister of Finance and to the deputy, and you prepared a letter and you have a relationship. Why would media do that?
Chair, thank you for the question. To be candid with you, I can't comment on why they would do that, but I can share with you that all of the conversations that I had with Bottler, specifically marketing discussions, were based on hypothetical scenarios. Those hypothetical scenarios, based on the fact that workplace harassment is quite a hot topic, and the fact that the federal government hasn't landed on an approach yet, neither has industry, quite candidly, with AI, that those conversations taped have all been taken out of context because, again, they were hypothetical and speculative conversations.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm hoping that in the next round I may get a chance to explore that hypothetical.
What a weak argument here. Okay, so what he's trying to do is say that any mention of me boasting about having connections, having relations, being able to get you guys in front of ministers, the PMO, the PCO, Privy Council Office is PCO, PMO is Prime Minister's Office. That's all, it was all hypotheticals and it's all taken out of context. Really? So everything that you've said to the media, that's been taken out of context too.
Yeah, your direct quotes to the reporters.
Sorry. And again, once you've been proven to be a liar, what have we said? You're screwed.
Yeah, if you lie about something small, then everybody's going to wonder about the big things. Are you lying about those too?
It's funny that in the video that we released the other day about the Globe and Mail article, it's funny that I put in that clip about, the fact that Christian was willing to lie about something so small, and our commentary in that live stream was about exactly that. If you're willing to lie about something so small as that, your entire testimony is taken in question. So, yeah, credibility, zero.
Scenarios, but did you ever draft a letter directly to the Minister of Finance or the Office of the Minister of Finance or the Deputy Finance Ministers or anybody in there? Did you personally draft a letter?
Chair, thank you for the question. I was asked by Bottler to draft a letter for Krista Freeland. That letter went from myself to GC Strategies to Bottler Executive when they submitted the letter.
Okay, so if your contract was with Bottler, what would you send it to GC Strategy?
I was directed to do so by Bottler Executive.
Okay, so by Bottler Executive, you're directed to draft a letter to send it to GC Strategies. Okay. Did you follow
that
up
is,
with
I'm
them?
sorry, Mr. Shari, that is our time.
Thank you. You're right, sir. Thank you very much.
Mrs. Vignola, please, for 2.5.
So that's the second time I've heard Freeland's name in this committee.
Yeah, and it doesn't make sense that that he's saying, "Oh, well, Bottler told me to send it to Christian Firth." Why? Why would they do that? That doesn't make sense.
None of this makes sense because it's all lies.
Yeah.
If it was the truth, it would make sense.
Well, there you go.
It might be ridiculous, but it would make sense.
So back to Vignola.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Brennan, if I understand well, the contract with Bottler AI is exclusive to Bottler AI and you. Who put you in contact with Bottler AI?
Chair, thank you for the question. I was put in contact with Bottler AI through GC Strategies.
OK. Puis comment est-ce...
Understood. And how did GC Strategies present you to Bottler? How did they ensure that you were the right man for the job?
Chair, thank you for the question. GC Strategies introduced me to Bottler based on my business process reengineering background. I guess they felt it might be a good fit.
They felt it might be a good fit when your job was to write reports, according to you, write documentation, according to you, and consult with them on providing guidance based on Treasury Board directives on artificial intelligence, of which you have no skill set and you're taking a data science course on.
Sounds legit.
Wow, Ratika, you guys are incompetent. I'm just kidding. I know they would never hire this guy like that. Like that's one of the stupidest things I've heard this guy say yet. One of, not the stupidest, but one of.
OK. Et Bottler AI?
Bottler AI, according to GC Strategies, needed your expertise with regard to processes restructuring, and that's why you were put into contact, right?
OK. Le sujet de la recherche que vous...
Can you tell us globally what the subject of this research was, what the topic was, generally speaking?
Yeah, we'd all like to know.
Chair, thank you for the question. Yes. If I may, the industry in and of itself, and primarily the Government of Canada, which is facing significant fines or having to fund, if you will, all kinds of harassment issues. And this is an opportunity, if you will, to proactively look at, and that was, I believe, what Bottler's value proposition is, to proactively look at managing harassment.
What? Okay, the question was, what were you contracted to do research-wise? What were you researching? Well, the government was, having to pay fines and spend money based around harassment. So it was around how the government manages harassment. What? Why would they need you for that? Oh, the answer is they wouldn't. That doesn't make any sense at all. They would talk to for this? So let's just run this through. So the CBSA contracts out Bottler, right? The whole point of bringing Bottler in is to build a app system to help them fight harassment and misconduct within the CBSA, because it's a big problem in the CBSA. So, you know who knows the most about harassment when it comes to like interdepartmental employee harassment? You know who knows the most about that?
HR?
Human resources. So who would know the most about how they currently manage harassment within the CBSA? Human resources. Why do they need you? They don't.
Again, none of it makes sense because it's not truthful.
No, not at all. Not at all. And through the evidence that Bottler's released, you can see like they've had a lot of relationships and direct contact with people in HR. That's who was allegedly having the resource problems that the project was on hold, if you recall. And so Bottler was told to stand by. Right? You're talking about things that you have no idea, like that. He literally just pulled that out of his ass.
OK. Puis en ce sens...
Understood. And in that manner, your research was about compiling data on the number and of cases of harassment?
So my background is in business architecture. So the federal government follows several frameworks. I believe you have an IT background. Those frameworks data would have to match, as well as the infrastructure and all of the associated processes. And I was engaged to investigate how those processes could incorporate the proactive management of HR issues.
Thank you very much. Mr. Johns, for 2.5, please.
Okay.
Well, thank you. Mr. Brennan, the reason I asked you about who your good friend is in the Chief of Defense's office is I want to find out some more information about sensitive information from D&D. Have you ever shared any sensitive information from D&D with outside parties?
If it was contracted to do so, yes.
Well, there's an excerpt from a call from Mr. Firth on January 26, 2021, regarding yourself. And Mr. Firth states, quote, he got that $5 billion use case pushed through. And then he also, at the same time as well, the stuff that he's done for D&D that he can tell us about is pretty huge. That I know a little bit about when he's had a few scotches and end quote. Can you speak about what this is related to and how you feel about this information being spoken to publicly?
SpaghettiOs.
This is why we're not encouraging a drinking game tonight, folks.
Yeah, there you go.
So when you get drunk, you like bragging about your work with the D&D, which is in violation of your agreements with the government of Canada. What do you have to say about that, sir?
Oh man, he's so boned.
His response, I can't comment on that. I don't know what he's talking about.
Well, I can't comment on it
Maybe-
because there's an NDA or whatever. I'm not supposed to talk about that.
Maybe he was meeting Mr. McDonald at his chalet for that. I don't know.
Before we Before we continue, we have Jerry McKayla, member for 2 months. It says, before I dive out, happy anniversary. Watching May 23rd, I hope you replace CBC. I know you'll at least be honest and truthful. Thank you very much.
We'll take $1.3 billion and then give $600 million back of it back. So we'll do it for half the cost. And Teresa with a $1.49 super chat and a slice of cake. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you for the question. I don't know how to respond to that. I can't comment because it's a third-party comment that I can't comment to.
Okay.
That's a problem. He didn't deny it.
Yeah, that's not good.
Like, if that wasn't true, he'd be like, no, that never happened. That's an easy one. That's an easy one.
Man, this guy just keeps digging his own grave.
And he's not even saying, I don't recall, which is the way to get out of it.
Yeah.
He's saying, I can't comment on it. That's... That's a big problem for you, sir.
But have you ever shared information from D&D to outside parties?
No, unless I've been contracted to do so.
Okay. Have you ever reached out to government officials or officials on behalf of private companies who you did not have a contract with said department or officials?
Watch. Okay. I'm starting to notice something here. When Brennan is answering and he's getting very uncomfortable, his top lip starts twitching. Watch his top lip as we go forward here.
No, I have not.
Okay, here's a quote, again, an excerpt from an email from yourself on February 5th, 2021. It says, quote, I also have calls into Health Canada, mental health, PSPC, PSCP, TBS, accessibility, Yasmin LaRoche, TBS, Privy Council regarding racism. Coming together, this is shaping up to be a white paper, and we'll need to call content to be more succinct. But back to the fact, you're not on this contract. So why would you be reaching out to these officials if you're not on the contract?
So again, thank you for the question. Bottler, again, they're a small company. They contacted me over and over several times to look at what they could do. And I was helping them, and it was a lot of marketing discussions. And as soon as an email like that is sent, the strategy would change. So the marketing discussions are based on hypothetical scenarios, possible white papers, opportunities that may or may not arrive. And I can tell you specifically...
So you're doing this as a charity? Is that what you're saying?
Again, they're a small company starting up, and I was hoping to help them formulate. I'm not a marketing person. I'm specifically a business process or engineering guy.
Thank you, Mr. Brennan. Mr. Brock, please, for 5.
I initially was, came in to help them with their marketing strategy. I'm not a marketing person. I'm but I'm a charitable guy, so I wanted to help these people. So I took it upon myself to send out this email. But oh my God, he's contradicting himself in so many different ways, and just got notice that a wonderful Canadian news distributor, independent news distributor, is in chat. Celtic Canuck, thank you very much for joining the stream, Celtic Canuck, and hope you enjoy what you hear. And I hope you have a scotch on us. Don't have too many, because otherwise you'll end up like Mr. Brennan here and having a terrible memory, called to committee, and then Mr. Brock's going to tear you a new one. So anyway, let's continue. Give Celtic Canuck some love, and let's continue with this, everybody.
Thank you, Chair. Following up on our line of discussion regarding lies and fibs, excuse me, I want to clarify something that I'm not sure I understand what your position is. In relation to the email that ultimately went to Deputy Prime Minister Freeland and her Chief of Staff, Broadhurst. What was who brought the idea forward? Who was the genesis of creating this particular document?
Chair, thank you for the question. It would be Bottler, the Bottler executive.
Your evidence is Bottler approaches you. Bottler has zero, apart from working with Justice Canada on a previous project, has zero inside knowledge with respect to any government employee and a member of the government. And they say, I think this is a great idea, Mr. Brennan. What do you think? And can you help us draft it? Is that what I'm led to believe, sir, is how it started?
So, Brock speak. Is that what I'm led to believe? Translates into, you're full of shit.
Yeah, is that what you're trying to make me believe?
Yeah. Is that really the lie that you would like to present to this committee, sir? Just so I understand. That's his testimony.
No, I can actually shed a little more information.
Oh,
on
good.
That. Again, thank you for the question, Chair. If you remember, Canada brought CBC actually published just around the Christmas time, if you will, a whole article, if you will, on what was happening in the Governor General's office. In the Governor General's office, Madame Payette, I believe, had a few issues.
Sorry to interrupt, sir. My time is limited. If you could just help me, you're steadfast that it was Bottler's idea, right? Not your idea and not Christian Firth. Am I correct? Or no, sir? That's a yes.
Today, my idea was specifically to look at...
I'm looking at an email, sir, thank you.
Uh-oh.
I'm looking at an email from your company. You're the owner and director of TLAV Consulting Limited. Email dated January 25th, 21 at 4:33 p.m. to Christian Firth. Subject, following up on Privy Council opportunity. Doesn't say just picked up an idea or a thought from Bottler. It says, following up on Privy Council opportunity. Christian, to our conversation this afternoon, I've pulled together research and a suggested path over the past 3 to 4 days to compile a deputy minister level email illustrating what I feel is pertinent to the value Bottler AI can provide. And you identify the Honourable Chrystia Freeland, Deputy Prime Minister, Government of Canada, and you include a draft letter. The only thing that was missing in the draft is details with respect to Ritika Dutt's phone number. So this, sir, did not come from Bottler, did not come from Ritika Dutt, did not come from Mr. Morv. It came from you. You did the research. You reached out to Christian. You worked on this over 3 to 4 days. And then I've got a series of emails back and forth between you and Bottler, and having Bottler make some suggested changes to the email, and you providing, sir, with the email address of Chrystia Freeland and her deputy minister, or sorry, chief of staff. So do you want to reflect on what you told the committee earlier, sir? Are you prepared to admit now that this was your idea, you thought of it, you cleaned it up, and you provided all the details to Bottler to send this email directly out to one of your government contacts in the Privy Council office?
So again, Brock speak, are you prepared to reflect means are you prepared to revise your horse manure into a coherent, truthful statement, because we already know what the truth is. We have the evidence right in front of us. Now, he's going to turn around and say, well, no, I reached out to Christian because Bottler asked me to do that. That's probably what he's going to try to say. Like, hello?
Chair, thank you for the question. Yes, at Bottler's direction, thank you.
There you go.
So ultimately, they have to give you direction, but you created the letter, did you not?
Based on Bottler's requirements and questions, yes.
You drafted it. It went back and forth, and finally, you and Bottler settled on a final version. You gave Bottler all the email details, and Bottler sent it off, correct?
So at Bottler's direction, yes, I provided a draft, if you will, and I also went into KEDS and pulled down an email address, yes.
Making progress now. Is that time? Unfortunately, thank you.
Mr.
Look at Kelly
Pawlowski,
smiling.
please, for 5 minutes.
So I want to follow up on a question
Oh,
of
this
Mr.
guy.
Block. So he said earlier, not this round, the
Oh,
round
he's
before,
worse than Sousa.
he said in the Bill Curry article
He's
in the
Sousa's
Globe
mentor.
Mail, which I looked for but couldn't find, he quotes you as saying, I did not and do not have contacts in the Liberal government. Then, this is Mr. Brock alleges, your comments today are not consistent with that. Now, if I heard you right, you said on your phone you looked and you had 3 ADMs, 2 of them who are no longer in government. And I mean, I don't see that as inconsistent with your statement that you don't have contacts with the Liberal government. ADMs are members of the bureaucracy. They're not associated with the Liberal Party or elected members, or am I wrong with that? I just want to clarify that.
So, Chair, thank you for the question. Your clarification is correct. I do not have any of those relations.
Oh, wow. He hit a softball.
Okay, now Mr. Johns had mentioned someone within defense, but again, that's not someone who's associated with the elected party.
Chair, thank you for the question. No, this was an administrator, an executive assistant, if you will, somebody who had spent their career at National Defense.
Another softball.
Wonderful person.
Well, I
can't remember her name right now because she's the mother of a friend of mine.
I can't see any smoking guns involving you, but I wanted to ask you, because you described yourself as a business architect and someone who looks at an expert in government resource management. So as far as I can see, one of the accusations from the opposition with respect to this whole matter is this contractual kind of chain of command where CBSA contracted with GC Strategies, who in turn contracted with Bottler AI, who in turn had contracting with you. And one of the accusations was with GC Strategies, the initial contractor who subcontracts, and they get so much money for basically doing what? And that's the accusation that this is kind of a really inefficient system, that they take money for basically doing nothing. And certainly we've had some response from various people that say, no, that's not the case. You mentioned yourself the difficulty of contracting with governments per se and the amount of time it takes. Can you just lay out for the Canadian public what you think the value added from companies like GC Strategies, who in turn subcontracts? Is this a big waste of our taxpayer money?
Wow.
Yes, it is, absolutely.
Wow. Wow. Okay. I didn't expect the partisanship to be that blatant. So, when a committee engages in a study, it's expected that, although there may be a little bit of partisanship, from each side, that the goal is to find the truth. That's kind of the point of a committee study.
Yeah, but when have the Liberals ever been interested in finding the truth? Right,
but this guy is so blatant. He's like, well, one of the accusations from the opposition. There's no point in labeling people opposition or governing party in here. You're all supposed to be on the same team, which is investigating.
Well, and it just makes it look worse because it's not only the opposition who believes that, it's the Canadian public as well, because it's our money.
Right. And then he goes on, this is the most egregious part of this whole thing. He's essentially saying, well, it's so expensive for these individual contractors to actually try to get a job with the government that it... we need companies like GC Strategies. It's okay if we're subcontracting 60 layers and they're all taking a 10 to 30% skim off the top. That's okay because it's a value add. That's what this guy is essentially saying. For all the Canadian public to hear, this Liberal is saying that GC Strategies is completely justified in being paid $11 million to sit on their hands and send emails to consultants.
Oh, and don't forget, they were looking on LinkedIn too.
Well, that's what I mean. Like, it's just mind-boggling that this guy would just come out and say that. Like, yeah, no, wasting money is a good thing. Educate the Canadian public why contract skimming and ghost contracting is a good thing. Please educate the Canadian public on it. Holy moly.
So, if I may, thank you for the question, Chair. In order for me as a consultant with my expertise to take all of the courses I have to take to stay current and certified, if you will, along with the fact that I actually need to go and deliver on projects to say that I've done these projects before, I don't have the time to actually do a lot of the administration, if you will, to go out and do the sales and marketing and actually manage all of the security and manage all of the other components, if you will. So I do use tier 1 and tier 2 companies for that. They literally come to me when they need my skill set. So there is a huge advantage. Examples, I've submitted CVs on RFPs that are over 78 pages long. And the reason they're that long is that I actually have to go and map my expertise to that requirement in order to get points. So even doing an RFP is well over 70 hours of work, which is almost 2 full weeks of not working when I could be actually making money.
Now, why doesn't the government just contract with you directly rather than going through, and why doesn't the government have within the government the people that then do what GC Strategies does basically, and then asks you down the line? Would that not be a saving of money and more efficient system?
I'm not an expert in that space, but I can tell you that there aren't a lot of me's out there. And
what?
There's not a lot of me's out there? Is that what he said?
Are you seriously sitting there saying there's not a lot of business architects out there that are on contract?
Okay, you know what? I'm a housewife and I could do what this guy does with no skill set.
Are you kidding me? Project managers and business architects and business analysts, you're a dime a dozen. And to the question, is it more efficient for the government to just directly contract? Yeah, it is. And guess what? It's a lot cheaper. So someone like him, if he is an expert, he's probably going to make $50 to $60 an hour. Okay? It's a lot. If he's working at the behest of a staffing agency like GC Strategies or like Coridex and Dalian, they take 30% on top of that. So let's just make it a nice round number. Let's say he makes $50 an hour. That translates into $100,000 a year. Let's say he's going to be contracted out through GC Strategies. That's 30%. So that means the Canadian public is going to be losing an additional $30,000, assuming he's going to be working for 1 year, on this guy. $30,000. Now think about all of these consultants, dozens and dozens that worked on ArriveCan. 30% times that, right? And they worked for months and months and months on this. So think of the millions of dollars. Take 30% off of the $54 million. So that's almost $20 million. That is just going down the drain to staffing companies. And you're telling me, Mr. Liberal, you're telling me that that's value add. Again, ask the Canadians living out of their cars. Ask the Canadians that can't afford to heat. Ask the Canadians who can't afford food. Ask them if that's value add. This is why, nothing to do with the Conservatives themselves. They're not even in this. This is why the Liberals need to be removed from office and replaced with literally anybody else. Anybody else but Jagmeet.
For them to use me, pay for my fees, and then when I'm done, move on, to carry that individual and that skill set is a significant amount of overhead.
Now, maybe you can just tell me how has this affected you, all these allegations, both personally and with the family?
Thank you very much for the question, Chair. I actually have switched to private sector consulting. It's very hard to do business with the federal government, and then when you actually have this kind of scrutiny, I've basically lost my business in the federal government.
Thank you very much. Mr. Genuis for 5, please.
I'm sorry, I don't have any sympathy for you because A, you guys are a dime a dozen, and B, thank goodness we're not going to have somebody who's going to be skimming off the top and leeching off of the Canadian taxpayer. I don't feel sorry for you at all. And after your testimony at committee, I would hazard to advise any private sector organization to stay away from you. Because you're a dishonest person by your own testimony. You can't even corroborate your own statements with the Globe and Mail.
So I have to read this comment from Diane. It says, soon you can do your consulting in a jail cell.
There you go.
Beautiful.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Brennan, just for background, did you previously work for the Government of Canada?
Chair, thank you for the question. No, I have not.
Okay. Thank you. There's a text message that's quoted in the Globe and Mail article that is you, purportedly you, saying with respect to the letter you're sending that was sent to the Deputy Prime Minister's office, they are trying to find a home for this opportunity, and there is internal negotiations as to how best to position. Can you confirm that you sent that text?
Chair, thank you for the question. Yes, I did send that text.
Okay. Was that text an embellishment, or was it an accurate description of your knowledge of what was happening inside the Deputy Prime Minister's office?
Chair, thank you for the question. It wasn't an embellishment as much as it was a hypothetical using the Government Electronic Directory Services, which is an org chart, if you will, to identify possible and speculate possible people who may or may not be trying to find a home for them.
Okay, so
No. Sorry. I don't think so. You don't just say, oh, they're trying to find a home for this. Maybe if they knew about it. No, that doesn't compute. You are going to get raked over the coals for this one. And you're not going to be able to get out of it.
Sorry. I don't know what that means at all. Like you sent a text which implies that you have some knowledge about a conversation going on inside the Deputy Prime Minister's office. That the conversation is about trying to find a home for this opportunity. Did you know that they were trying to find a home for this opportunity and that there were internal negotiations going on? Because clearly you can't infer from looking at GEDS whether or not there are internal negotiations going on. So maybe try just try answering that again. Like, did you?
Sure.
Is it true, or did you know that there were internal negotiations going on around this, or were you guessing?
Thank you. No, absolutely guessing. I did not.
Okay.
So you lied.
Sir, I think just following on Mr. Brock's comments, like the problem is that you seem to have a different definition of lying than everybody else does. And I'm not trying to be a jerk about this, right? But you sent a text saying they are trying to find a home for this opportunity, and there is internal negotiations as to how best to position. And now you're telling us you didn't know that to be true, but you wrote that in a text message as a guess about something that might be true. You said something that you didn't know to be true as a guess.
But you
how
positioned
is that
it as
not
true.
a lie?
Chair, thank you for the question. It's absolutely not a lie. It's a hypothetical scenario.
Okay, so like, why were you?
Sorry.
Sorry. I've just come to the conclusion. What Mr. Brennan is? He's a Vulcan.
No, Vulcans are cool.
It wasn't a lie. It was an exaggeration. It wasn't a lie. It was a hypothetical. He's trying to be a Vulcan.
I thought they base everything in logic.
He's not a Vulcan, everybody.
Doesn't make any sense to me. Right? Like, because the people who received the text
Look how red
clearly
Genuous is
thought
getting.
that you were saying something true, but you were describing a hypothetical that could have been.
So
Explain this more to me.
Absolutely. It was a text. It was a real quick, hey, hypothetical. This is my guess of what's going on.
Oh, you didn't say guess.
End of story.
You didn't say guess.
Was there any context around this text that we're missing that would have explained that? Or did you just say they are trying to find a home for this opportunity and there is internal negotiations as to how to best to position?
Again, hypothetical. I have no idea.
Okay.
I have no idea.
Okay. So,
take a drink of water, everybody. Take a drink of water. Holy crap, man. We thought the Firth testimony was painful. Like, at least Firth followed some sort of pattern. This guy is just...
He's all over the place.
Yeah.
Like, I'm honestly having a really tough time making heads or tails of this whole thing, so thank goodness you're here, Cypher.
Yeah.
So you had absolutely no idea what was happening inside the Deputy Prime Minister's office, allegedly.
Absolutely. Thanks for the question. Absolutely no idea.
Okay. Sir, I have to say, just with respect to this investigation in general, our goal is at this committee is just to find out what actually happened. It's to get to the truth. And people with nothing to hide should be able to give us frank and clear answers. But what makes me, and I think many members of the public, even more suspicious about what's gone on in the context of this procurement is that we have witnesses give obviously absurd answers. Like to Mr. Brock's question, you couldn't distinguish. You had said you fibbed about something, and then you said it wasn't a lie. And then here you're telling me that you did send a text. That the text you sent claims to have explicit knowledge of what happened inside the Deputy Prime Minister's office. You're saying you didn't have that knowledge that you claimed to. And now you're saying, well, it was because you were describing a hypothetical scenario. Like you weren't engaged in some kind of cosplay game. You were telling your client what you claimed to know was happening, and you're telling us you didn't know was happening.
Yeah, I'm afraid that is our time.
How am I going to make sense of it?
Yeah, that is our time, Mr. Genuous. Perhaps we can get back on the next round. Mr. Saray, welcome to OGO. You have 5 minutes, please.
You know, I wonder if Kelly's just leaning back, just like laughing at all of this. Like, not in a, I love watching this, but I wonder if he's just sitting there laughing like, this is the most ridiculous thing I've heard. And I'm glad I don't have to be in the middle of this. Because this is just absolutely ridiculous. Like, and as for the cosplay, like, who knows? Maybe he was dressed up as Dracula when he sent that text, right? Like,
Well, I like this comment from Blaine Mitchell. It says he's a Romulan pretending to be a Vulcan.
there you go.
Genius.
That's exactly what he is. Poor man's Vulcan is what he is.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll yield my time to Mr. Sousa, please.
Mr. Sousa, you have 4 minutes and 52 seconds.
Oh, God.
Thank you. Can you explain, Mr. Brennan, when you talk about writing a letter and submitting what you did, is that not why you were hired?
So, Chair, thank you very much for the question. I
Softball.
was specifically hired for my business architecture background. They needed help in other scenarios, and I stepped in to help.
So what you build them for by the hour or by a completion of a job?
By the day. So there's a number of activities that I would do in a day, and then I would provide deliverables, whether it be an advisory note or research, if you will, an update, industry insights, standards, compiled documents, where areas of the federal government that might fit with what they are looking to do. Again, consistently providing possibilities that would help them with their strategy.
Fair enough. And so when you produce the letter addressed to a department, and when you make references to phone numbers that are publicly available, you are offering them something that they're asking for?
Chair, thank you for the question. Absolutely.
Like, I'm trying to determine what untoward activity occurred here, other than you trying to provide an opportunity for this company to get a job because they're looking to promote themselves, and you are facilitating that promotion. Is that correct?
Chair, yes. Thank you very much for the question. Yes, with the best of intentions for $2,565.
Mr. Brennan, how long have you been at this
So it was
job?
a bargain basement price.
How long have you been
$2,500.
acting?
As a business consultant, I packaged at a large firm, so I actually opened my doors and started working. My very first contract with the federal government was in late 2004.
And who was the government in power?
Can you tell me who did the economic review? I don't know, to be candid.
That was the Liberals.
I guess my point being is you've worked under different government
really?
parts.
This line?
And throughout that period
Not
of time,
ArriveCan,
you would have
right?
had relationships with, in your business practices, with a number of public servants.
Absolutely.
Did you ever have a personal relationship with a conservative minister?
Absolutely not.
Did you have any contacts with elected officials from other governments?
Not to my knowledge, no.
It's actually helpful that he
So
said
that practice has been consistent, has it not? Or you tell me, has your practice been consistent in dealing with the civil service as opposed to elected officials in all parties?
Absolutely. I think if you went back 20 years, an auditor took a look, you would not see any invoicing for any kind of lobbying or any kind of that activity. It's very specific to business process or engineering, and that type of consulting.
So I guess some allegations, and that's what this is. And, I mean, we don't want to jump to conclusions, which I think is being done at times, that you have had to do the job on behalf of Bottler, who doesn't have a contract with the government, and nor does GC Strategies, by the way, in this instance. It wasn't them that had the contract either.
No, but your buddy thinks this is a great setup. Because he said that about 20 minutes ago. Sousa, your buddy says, no, this is all value add. This is how it works. So, yeah, you can't do that. And it was actually really helpful when he asked Brennan, do you have any relationship with conservative ministers? No. Okay. We're gonna hold on to that one. Because if it does turn out that he had relationships with elected officials in the Liberal government, he said no to conservative ministers, and it may be proven positive that he does with Liberal ministers. So, just saying.
They're both subcontracted without contracts themselves within the system. So it's all very convoluted, and they're all trying to aspire to obtain something from government. And that was where they came to you for advice?
No, specifically Bottler came to me for advice to understand how the federal government, specifically inside of Treasury Board, they have several plans and priorities. And in those plans and priorities, they identify what are the plans and priorities in information management technology, security services, what are the plans and priorities for the finances, what are the plans and priorities for HR applications. So I work in the resource management space.
Right. So you have familiarity there from many years of experience, from what I understand, from various political stripes, and that is where you offer value to them. So when you said you fibbed, what did you actually fib about? Because you do seem to have an understanding of the system that you can provide direction. That's why they've hired you. Is that correct?
Oh my God, Sousa.
Is he trying to corner him, or what's he doing?
No. What he's trying to say. Okay, so the alleged fib in the Globe and Mail article was where Brennan was asked, okay, so Bottler says that you told them that you have all of these connections within the government, and you have this ability to network and get them in front of people. And Brennan's response to Bill Curry was, I fibbed about that. What Sousa's trying to say is, well, you don't have to have connections on the government. You have knowledge of the government. So it's basically the same thing. So you didn't really fib at all. He's trying to give him another
An out?
T-ball.
Yeah.
So he's trying to basically say, well, yeah, I guess that's kind of true. And then that way Sousa can say, so see, he didn't lie.
That's garbage.
Yeah, it's stupid. This is called leading the witness.
And Alice Avonlea actually asks a really good question here with a $2 super chat. Says, architect equals House of Cards builder? ? I think you might be onto something, Alice.
The House of Cards is going to fall soon.
So absolutely, that's the reason they hired me.
So what did you fib about?
So I guess it was making a perception of what somebody was saying about my text. And that was that they were actually in the meeting with me. And if they didn't recall, then their perception would be that I fibbed. And I did not. We were on that meeting together, and we used the Government Electronic Directory Services to identify people.
And then you've done this for many companies subsequently over
No,
I'm afraid that is our time. Mrs. Vignola for 2.5 minutes, please.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Brennan, if I understand properly here, you have never tabled any contracts with the government. You have always been contracted by somebody else who had received a contract from the government. Is that the case?
Yes, that is the case.
OK.
In your opening remarks, you said that $500 million were spent to create Shared Services Canada. You mentioned that you were a consultant. You were not the one who got that contract. Is that so?
Chair, thank you for the question. A very quick qualification. In 2003, the Economic Review Committee put in place 100 CIOs to identify shared services. They came up with a $6.3 billion spend from the federal government. In 2005, they created a group inside of PSPC, and they broke out that $6.3 million into 3 different areas. The contract that I worked on was with one of those solutions companies inside of Public Works. So it was actually a $6.3 billion solution, which they broke out into data center services. They broke into telecom and networking services. And my specific piece, my 1/3, was specific to desktop hardware, software, and social services.
So you heard it here, everybody. This gentleman is 1/3 responsible for creating one of the most wasteful and ineffective taxpayer wasting machines in the federal government, which is Shared Services Canada. This guy was part of it.
That doesn't surprise me.
Nope. What does surprise me is the $5 super chat from Spiky Mikey 33. Happy birthday. Thank you very much for that,
you.
Spiky Mikey. It's very, very much appreciated.
And we're glad you could all be here to celebrate with us.
Merci.
Thank you. Earlier, you said something to my colleague. You said, and I'm summarizing here, that if the government had the resource to play the role that GC Strategies is playing, which is a headhunting role, it would not be profitable. GC Strategies received $9 million
Oh, Vignola was listening
for
to our
its
stream.
headhunting role.
Retroactively.
How many officials in Canada make $9 million for work that only lasts a few months?
Yeah, answer that one.
Chair,
Oh, look at that smirk.
thank you for the question. Good point. I'm speaking about maybe the overhead to carry someone of my skill set.
What?
But, yeah, good point.
What an arrogant asshole!
What?
Oh my goodness!
Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Remember, this guy's an expert in business architecture, everybody. But like an MP who doesn't work in this every day asks a simple question and he's, good point. Hadn't considered that. What?
That's gross. That answer was disgusting.
This guy's a terrible liar, a terrible deflector. He's like, I was speaking about, me specifically because I'm expensive. Holy crap, man. Rabusadis with a $2 super chat. Good to see you again. Happy birthday. Please keep doing what you do. Well,
we're not going to stop until Trudeau finds us himself.
Yeah, absolutely. And Daryl Campbell with a $20 super chat. You are amazing.
Thank
That's
you.
your first on a live stream. Thank you so much, Daryl, for that. It's very, very, very much appreciated. Alrighty, let's continue.
And we're done with the time. Mr. Johns, please, for 2.5.
Mr. Brennan, last round you said Bottler contacted you repeatedly. By what method did they contact you?
They were, well, during the relationship, if you will, that we had from 2019 through to probably June, if you will, of 2021. We used email, we used voicemail, we used telephone.
Okay, can you provide us with records of all of those contacts and information back and forth?
Unfortunately, I cannot. I'm under an NDA, if you will, in contract with Bottler. They will have provided them for you.
Okay, you sent a text to Bottler on February 1st, 2021, and it says, quote, the Deputy Prime Minister's office reached out to Justice and CBSA. Contact was not able to offer context, but be ready for questions if asked, end quote.
Okay, so this is Brennan reaching out to Bottler via text saying that that Freeland's office has reached out to a couple of agencies. My contact didn't provide any specifics, but be ready for questions. Any bets? Here, I think this is the next part of the water drinking game. Anytime he says that's a hypothetical, I think everybody has to take a drink of water. So, any bets on whether he says, oh, well, that was a hypothetical? Ugh.
Who was your contact in the Deputy Prime Minister's office?
Again, another speculative and hypothetical scenario.
Wow.
I do not have any contacts.
Like, I'm sorry. That's... Wow. How can you sit there, buddy, and reasonably, which you obviously don't, you reasonably accept people to just accept that answer? What you're saying, well, hypothetically, everyone, hypothetically, the Deputy Prime Minister's office reached out to this agency and this agency, but my contact doesn't really have a lot of information on it, but be ready for questions. But, you know, hypothetically, that may have happened. What?
Doesn't make a whole lot of sense, does it? Oh, apparently our cat had to chime in too.
And if it doesn't make sense, it's not true.
How would you write that then?
Again, we had several marketing discussions back and forth, and those are a lot. They're all based on hypothetical and speculative conversations.
That's ridiculous.
And to your point.
Well, it says that they reached out. You wrote that.
Absolutely hypothetical.
What?
Okay. Now, under what contract or task authorization were you doing this work? And under what contract or task authorization were you being compensated for this work?
For which work?
Reaching out in terms of your text to Bottler and what I just talked about at the Deputy Prime Minister's office.
I was not under any task authorization. I was not under any contract.
Okay. Have you ever engaged in or attempted to engage in unregistered lobbying activities?
No, I have not.
Okay, so some of the work that you've mentioned today, which you say you are doing effectively pro bono, it sounds like lobbying to me. Can you please tell us if you'd been getting paid for any of that work, and would any of it have been considered lobbying?
This is becoming a problem.
Yeah, because didn't he previously say he wasn't a lobbyist?
He has never, ever, ever been a lobbyist, but his organization is registered as a authorized lobbyist.
That's peculiar.
Yeah, it's a little odd.
I mean, how many businesses do you know that are registered as lobbyists that aren't lobbyists?
Right? You know, there would be no point.
You know, like my dentist isn't registered as a lobbyist.
Right? And this is the thing, and this is why, everybody, this is why he has been denying all of this stuff, right? So, lobbying is when somebody is actively advocating on behalf of a business or some other, profitable entity to government officials. So, when, you hear about the oil and gas lobby or the environmental lobby or anything like this, they're trying to get the government to do something or to not do something, one way or the other. That's what lobbying is. You're trying to influence public officials to align with what you want them to do. So all of these questions around, connections with elected officials, writing letters, suggesting that you can do this. This text here, where he is actively involved in conversations with people and contacts with the PMO, the deputy PMO, that would be considered lobbying because he's under contract to Bottler, and that could be interpreted as you're lobbying on Bottler's behalf, even though Bottler didn't ask you to do that. So this is becoming problematic because he is essentially saying, no, I didn't do that. And he's also saying, I have never lobbied. And he's actually going to be in a lot of trouble after this hearing's done. A lot of trouble. Hammy Hamster with a $20 super chat, your third on the live stream. Congrats and happy birthday. Thanks for all the great content you present to us. You have the best YouTube channel, in my opinion. Thank you so much. We have the best YouTube channel in our humble opinion as well. So.
But we might be a little biased.
Yes, we're a little biased. And SW, member for 2 months, waterboarding would provide a different answer.
Oh, no.
I can't say I disagree.
Oh, no.
Anyway, let's continue.
Thank you very much for the question, Chair. Absolutely not.
So my understanding is that Bottler, you actually came via Mr. Firth. Isn't that correct? To Bottler?
In 2019, yes, Mr. Firth introduced me to Bottler.
Okay, that is our time. You'll have one last round, Mr. Johns. Mr. Casey, welcome back to Ogo. I think last time we saw you at Ogo was about 8 years ago at the Canada Post study. Go ahead.
Mr. Casey.
Mr. Casey?
I believe this is the CPC round.
Yes, because I'm brand new at this. I apologize, Mr. Casey. Mrs. Kusie, go ahead, please. Thanks, Mr. Johari.
Yes, because I'm brand new at this. I love Kelly's sense of humor. All right, so before we get to Stephanie Kusie, we have two housekeeping pieces of business. Skya Starlet, welcome to NTNP supporter. Thank you very much for becoming a member. Check out our community section for some additional content. And you also now have access to use our wonderful emojis and participate in all of the fun. And Rock Monkey with a $13.99 super chat. This is going to be a crazy year. Happy birthday and congrats. Great job, guys. Thank you so much for that. Very much appreciated. Come on, Kusie. IT guys, let's go.
Mrs. Kusie, you're up for 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Chair. Mr. Brennan, you say you have been in business for 25 years, yet Telelab has only been around for 5. What other company names have you operated under, please?
So, Chair, thank you for the question. I've been in business for over 20 years, around 20 years, not 25. Previous to that, I was a sole proprietorship under my own name.
Okay, so under your own name. And did you have any contracts with the Government of Canada during those 15 years prior to your current company?
Not directly, no.
Okay. And how many contracts, again, can you clarify, please, have you had with the Government of Canada?
I'd have to look up those records, but I'd have to say in excess of 15.
Okay, across how many departments, please?
I'd have to take a look again, but I believe about 5 or 6.
Okay, would you be able to provide that information to the committee, please?
I could.
Okay, thank you very much. How many times have you partnered with GC Strategies, please? How many contracts have you done with GC Strategies?
I believe I've done about 5 or 6 again, but I'd have to get you those records.
Okay, and how many times have you partnered with Mr. Firth specifically, please?
None, 0.
Okay, none, 0. Okay, how would you describe the nature of your TLAV, please?
The nature of
your consulting business. What value do you bring your clients?
So I provide industry best practices, business architecture, change management, organizational design, and provide business and IMIT transformations.
Okay. Why would you say you are not a registered lobbyist when you are directly coaching businesses on how to pitch their products to government officials and members of parliament?
Oh.
Oh, snap.
I like the way those questions were structured. Softball, softball, softball.
Surprise.
Intentional ball, intentional hit based on ball.
Yeah, she's like aiming for the batter.
Yeah. So that was good out of left field. Get him feeling a little comfortable, and then wham. Paradoxy giving her own wham with a $50 super chat. Thank you so much. Good to see you in chat. I hypothetically am an expert, but know nothing, allegedly, but it had nothing to do with ArriveCan. But seriously, happy anniversary, birthday. I got you a gift. It's a chalet in Jamaica. Oh, that's great. Hypothetically, though, right? It's, it's hypothetically a chalet. Really, it's a piece of wood lying on the beach, isn't it, Paradoxy? Thank you so much for that. It's good to see you.
We also have a $5 super chat from Will Kowalchuk. It says, I can't believe the government has gone to this extent to cover their ass, and thank you, NP, for all you do. Happy birthday, love all. Thank
Wonderful.
you very much.
Thank you, everybody.
And I think I saw another one. I've got a $5 super chat from Trish Prue. It says, not certain if that guy knows what hypothetical means.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I need that other meme from The Princess Bride. He's like, you keep using that word. I don't think it means what you think it means.
Again, my understanding and specifics around lobbyist is I've never set up meetings. I don't make those calls. I don't connect. What I bring is the industry standards expertise, if you will. I'm certified in several different architecture formats, or as well as provide where the federal government is going. Worked on a lot of that at Treasury Board, if you will. So I understand what it is they need from a resource management. That's HR, IT.
Okay, but the products that you are and the services that you are providing are for government, and you are interfacing with government. Don't you think those should be requirements to have you registered as a lobbyist?
Absolutely not. All of those standards are actually documented and on Treasury Board's website.
Okay, I disagree with your definition of a lobbyist. But I will leave it there. What were your payment expectations when working with Mr. Firth and Butler AI to connect them with ministers and other officials?
There was no such arrangement, and yeah.
Okay. So then, how do you get compensated then if you're telling me there are no expectations when working with Mr. Firth and Butler AI?
So again, I worked with Butler AI directly, specifically under a contract. And then I've worked separately again with GC Strategies on other opportunities. I didn't work together with them. If Butler had a relationship with GC Strategies, that was their relationship.
Okay, your business started in 2015, the same year that GC Strategies started. Have you been? Did you start these businesses in tandem?
Sure. Thanks for the question. No, they didn't. I did not.
Isn't that interesting?
I don't think we found that one in our research, did we?
No, we didn't pick up on that one. But isn't that interesting? That GC Strategies and this guy's consulting company started at the same time. And why would you bother? Why would you bother going from a sole proprietorship to just a sole proprietorship just under a different name? unless you wanted to just present yourself as more professional, bigger than you are, I guess. I don't know. Another hypothetical lie? No?
Did he go from sole prop to sole prop?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Because it would make more sense if he went from like sole prop to incorporated, because that provides some additional benefits.
Like
I think
tax
in terms
benefits.
of in terms of taxes, but also if you get sued, they can't like go after your personal assets type thing.
I guess it's possible that T-Lab is incorporated. I shouldn't jump to conclusions there. Consulting. Well, there's no website.
That's weird. An IT company without a website?
Let's see. Mr. Oh, yeah, because I looked him up before. He's probably turned everything to private, which is... let's see. Vaughn Brennan, senior consultant. This is probably him. Yeah, just self-employed. That's all it says.
Odd.
So, and I think this is him, and he is, he's turned everything to private. That is one thing I did notice. He turned everything to private after Christian Firth was called into committee, and the original Globe and Mail article came out.
Okay, but you've been consulting with each other since that time.
I'd have to get you a start date. I'm not sure specifically when we started. It could have been earlier, later. I don't know.
Okay. Were you involved with Mr. Firth in the creation of ArriveCan?
Absolutely not.
Okay. Did you ever have any communications with him relative to ArriveCan?
No, I did not.
I'm pretty sure Firth said he did.
What percentage of your business is conducted through the federal government, would you say?
I'd say about 70%.
That's quite a high margin. And how often would you say you consult with federal departments, agencies, or liberal ministerial offices?
Never.
Never. Okay. Why did you have Ms. Ratika email Chrystia Freeland, the Deputy Prime Minister, and more relevant here, her Chief of Staff, Jeremy Broadhurst?
I did not. That was a bottler decision.
Interesting.
Yeah, because I'm sure Ratika and Amir were just sitting there and saying, "Hey, Vaughn, I got an idea. Write up an email, and we're going to send it to Freeland and her Chief of Staff." And you're going to sit there and say, "Okay." Like, I'll write it up. Here you go. Come on. I don't buy this for a second. And it's not because I'm cheap. Robbie Sadie's with a $10 super chat. Thank you so much for that. If he wanted to change how the liability was structured, or if his first company was being investigated for something, so he spun that down and started anew, spitballing. Yeah. The other thing that I think, considering he answered 70%, is that it looks more impressive to government agencies and government contractors when you are being contracted out by GC Strategies, and it looks like it's an organization, right?
Well, and I'm sitting here doing a quick search on the Ontario Business Registry, and there's a entry for a T-Labs from August 24th of 2012, but it became inactive on August 23rd of 2017. It says primary activity not provided. That's pretty much all the information I have. So
we'll do some more digging on that and see what else we can find. But anyway, that's kind of my thought, is that it's a little bit more professional looking, and maybe increases the likelihood that the government's going to say sure when they see that you're contracted to T-Lab Consulting, not Vaughn Brennan, mysterious project manager in business architecture, who's a hypothetical existent human being.
Okay, that was a bottler decision, yet my both my colleagues, Mr. Brock and Mr. Jennis, I believe, have asked questions which indicate otherwise. The day after the email was sent, you had informed Ms. Ratika Dutt that the Liberal government was looking for a home for the Bottler opportunity. So who was your contact again that provided that information, please?
It was a hypothetical.
So again, hypothetical based on the text, and I do not have any of those contacts.
Drink.
Thank you very much. Now we will go
Okay.
to Ms.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Latanzio for 5 minutes. Please go ahead and welcome to Go.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will yield my time to my colleague, Marcus.
Mr. Pawlowski, go ahead, please.
Oh, Lord.
Thank you. So I want to get back to the quote on I fibbed that was in the Globe and Mail, and my understanding was it was about your contacts in government and hearing back from them. Now I've heard, I think in this in this panel that you were talking about a hypothetical or it was a misquote. And can you just, or you were referring to Geds? I'm just not, maybe I'm dense, but I'm just not clear, like the context of, did you say you fibbed and what were you talking about? Because that seems to be one of the main fingers being pointed at you. You said you're fibbed and now you're saying you're not, but I just want to clarify, like, what's that all about?
Chair, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to explain. There's conversations with Bottler and the team around using GEDS and identifying, if you will, the hierarchy within DPMO. That was how we came up with the names. That's how we had the discussions. When I was asked the question, I was told that they didn't recall that conversation. So then I said, my perception was would be that they fibbed.
So Bottler fibbed when they said that they didn't recall that there was that conversation.
Yeah, whoever it was, that they didn't recall.
Okay, it wasn't that you fibbed.
Whoever it was. Okay, so he's holy crap, man. God, he just can't help it. He has to keep the lie up. This is going to be the hill we're going to die on, people. So he's being called out on this, and even though he's the one who told Curry that he's the one who lied, I'm just going to say lied because that's what it is. He's now saying, oh, well, if Bottler was in there with me, and if they don't remember, then their perception must be that I fibbed. No, you were asked, did you ever aggrandize yourself in terms of the amount of influence that you had within the federal government? And you said, yeah, I was trying to push her to make a decision, so I fibbed. How that doesn't get turned around into, well, we were looking at the government website and hypothesizing about the different scenarios, and they didn't remember, so whoever it was must have fibbed. Like, this is seriously the testimony that this guy is bringing to a federal committee. It's astounding. I don't see how this guy thinks that this is going to fly with all of the attention that's on this.
Right. Well, at the end of the day, it would look like I fibbed.
How would it look like you fibbed?
Well, if they didn't recall the conversation, it looked like I fibbed.
Okay, I see. Okay, and now you also mentioned an NDA you had with Bottler. I assume that's non-disclosure agreement. Is that kind of standard, and why in the industry, and why would that be there? Because I think the public perception is that if you have a non-disclosure agreement, you got something to hide. But maybe that's just the standard. Maybe you could explain that for me.
Okay, that's gross. That is gross. I'm sorry. Pawlowski, you are a horrible, horrible human being. Talk about misleading anybody who is trying to watch this. That's disgusting. What he is inferring there is that because Bottler made him sign an NDA, Bottler is shady and Bottler has something to hide. That's what he's trying to insinuate there. That's gross. That's a Liberal MP actively trying to discredit known whistleblowers. That is terrible. For anyone who's wondering, NDAs, they are completely standard between organizations. The CBSA should have had an NDA directly with Bottler, but they didn't. But Bottler, being a prudent organization, has NDAs with anyone that they're doing direct business with. GC Strategies, they had them sign an NDA. This guy had him sign an NDA. Well, yeah, if you're giving them access to intellectual property, 100%. Do you think they'd want to protect intellectual property considering, they're an AI business? Like, geez. This guy. Oh my goodness. I didn't like him before. I absolutely detest him now. Spawny 420 with a $4.20 super chat. It's 420 somewhere. It sure is.
Yeah, so it is a standard in private sector.
Oh my goodness, he told the truth on something.
Usually focused on protecting their intellectual property and any conversations around it.
Okay, so I want to ask you something about the bureaucratic process. Because you said your expertise is in business architecture, government resource management, and I'm a longtime doctor. I worked in a hospital for a long time. I was continuously frustrated by the bureaucracy and the fact that the bureaucracy seemed to be there to perpetuate the bureaucracy rather than to help us on the front line. Almost you talk to police officers, teachers, they all feel the same way. And certainly I think the perception in the government, and when we talk to you, there's this big spider web of consultants. And so you were paid as a consultant for Bottler, who were subcontracted by GC Strategies, who contracted CBSA. This is consultants on consultants consulting to consultants who consult to other consultants. And it's all about like, we're all going to meet to decide when the next meeting is. And this is all like a big misuse of government money. That's been my perception. And it's not just our government. I'm sure the conservative government, the bureaucracy was there, the provinces, municipalities, they have their bureaucracies, the hospital, everyone has their bureaucracies. Can you explain to me, who's a bit of a doubter on bureaucracies, like what efficiency, why do we have all this? Do we really need it? Are we just paying people for spinning the wheels?
Okay, so couple of things there. Yeah, so all governments have bureaucracy. Here's the main difference, though. You have the Liberal government increased the public service by 30%. By 30%.
So thank you to Wayne Casby. I'm sorry if I mispronounced that. With a $20 super chat.
Fox is just cleaning up my my administrative mess. I missed Mr. Casby's super chat, but we did talk about 420, so we're good with that. But yeah, so in one respect, this guy is saying, oh well, the current contracting process, it's just fine, it's value add, and then he's turning around and saying, but there's bureaucracy and I don't like it. Well, make up your mind. It's one or the other. And your boss increased the size of the public service by 30%, so he compounded the already terrible bureaucracy and made it even worse.
Thank you for the question. I honestly don't know how to answer the question. Again, I was contracted directly by Bottler as a private sector enterprise, so it had nothing to do with the project. I was actually hired by Bottler to help them with their business.
Now, why does Bottler hire you, or what's your expertise that you've just been doing this for a longer time? You know the way government works?
No, my expertise is specific to, well, yes and no. So my expertise is specific to how the Treasury Board guidelines and plans, if you will, as well as the fact that I also have a significant amount of private sector understanding as well to help them with their business.
So that's why Bottler wanted you to write them the letter which would go to finance, because you have the kind of the knowledge of how things work.
So no, writing that letter is really outside of my skill set. That's a marketing activity for the most part. What they were hiring me to do was understand how their AI, how the data would connect, or hire me to help them understand how that would connect to standard federal government practices.
So then why would they ask you to write the letter?
Maybe they didn't.
Maybe they didn't.
If it doesn't make sense, it's probably not true.
Right. If you're not a lobbyist and you don't have any connections, all you seem to know how to do is sit in front of a website and speculate. Why would they ask you to do that? That's the problem, and that's the question you need to answer, buddy. It doesn't make sense.
And we have a comment from member for 2 months. Give your balls a tug. Very nice. Congratulations on a full year of awesome content. Best Canadian political content I've seen. Thank you very much. And very creative username.
Well, I think the full username is give your balls a tug. If they are still there, man up. I think that's his
Oh,
full
that's
username.
the username. That's even better.
Yeah. And Diane Sylvain, I just figured this out. Dracula knew the Liberal questions ahead of time, and Trudeau or Freeland said they would protect him. Well, maybe.
Sorry, they're AI?
Sorry, artificial intelligence. They're a data
Oh,
company.
keep up.
So that was the value of what they were trying to provide the
Keep
federal
up.
government. It's a proactive way to manage issues, if you will, harassment issues, and that they would capture that data and meter, measure, manage it, if you will, so they could proactively manage harassment. That was the understanding.
Thank you, Mr. Brennan. Mr. Brock, please, for 5 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you, Chair. Okay, Mr. Brennan, earlier you
Time to start playing with his
responded
food.
to a question of Mr. John's that you've never double dipped. You still stand by that, sir?
Oh, he knows something.
I do, yes. Thank you.
Notice Brock has a phone in his hand. So he has some information in front of him. Here we go.
I believe you also indicated what you originally billed Bottler was something in the $2,000 range. Is that correct?
Pardon, you broke up on me?
I understand you indicated in evidence earlier that you billed Bottler something in the neighborhood of $2,000 for your work?
Sure, yeah. Yes, correct.
Forward a copy of that invoice directly to committee?
I can.
Now, why, sir, do I have another invoice with respect to your work on Bottler dated March 23rd, 2023, addressed to Christian Firth at GC Strategies for work involving your consulting with the government and Bottler. And the amount, sir, is $12,825.50.
Holy shit. Holy shit.
Yeah, we're both sitting here, mouths open, staring at the screen like, oh my goodness.
And remember, everybody, do you know why Brock has this email? Because Christian Firth was ordered to present all email correspondence.
Oh, that's right, he was.
This is the only reason he has this email. So I'm betting Mr. Brennan didn't think that these emails between him and Firth would have been held by committee.
I don't think Mr. Brennan thought at all, ever.
Wow. Is that a hypothetical? Maybe it's a hypothetical invoice. We'll see.
So if I can provide context
Sir,
for
were
that?
you paid that amount?
I absolutely was not.
You were not? Okay. Why did you prepare an invoice for almost $13,000 for the same work that you invoiced Bottler at $2,000?
So the invoice was originally for Bottler. Their lawyer told me that it belonged to GC Strategies. I was led to believe that Bottler had gone bankrupt, and I threw that invoice on top of the pile.
What?
To inflate the value by 6 times the original amount.
It's not. Absolutely not.
Fleecing the taxpayer, right, sir?
Absolutely not.
And you understand, sir, that Bottler has hours and hours of taped recordings. You understand that, sir? There is a quote, actually an audio recording that was taken between Bottler and Firth, where Mr. Firth says as follows: like this one guy, in reference to you, wrote the business case for shared services for $5 billion. If I give him to you free of charge, would you like him to have would you like to have him work with you? That was dated October 26, 2020. On the same call, Mr. Firth says, so I'll tell him, again referencing you, Mr. Vaughn, to bill a few days here and there and then I'll charge it to CBSA. What is going on here, Mr. Brennan? Because the taxpayer has a right to know if they're being fleeced by you.
Yes, we do.
Wow.
Yes, we do. And he's going to be like, oh, I'm an innocent victim in all of this. This is not me.
Of course.
I can't comment on that. That's probably what he's going to say. I can't comment on that.
I have an NDA, or I signed a contract with Bottler. I can't talk about that.
Quick, I need to think of some other acronyms and some other reasons. I can't say this is hypothetical. I need something else.
Wow.
Get the thesaurus out, everybody.
Wow, I knew this was going to be a good session. I was warned beforehand, but holy smokes.
Jeez. Yola's a go with a $7 super chat. Thank you for another great session. Don't thank us.
Yeah, thank this clown.
Like, holy moly.
Oh my goodness.
Did you free of charge? Did you work free of charge?
I can't comment on third-party conversations.
Side deal with Mr. Firth?
Absolutely not. I can't comment on third-party conversations.
Actually paid for your so-called consulting for Bottler AI to various government ministries. What were you actually paid, sir?
Absolutely. I can't comment on third-party comments. I don't understand your question. You're asking me what I was paid for.
Were you paid, sir, for your services? It's a simple question.
From?
Government.
From government for work that I did on the other.
On the Bottler case.
I was paid by Bottler, nothing to do with federal government taxpayer money. I was paid by Bottler $2,500. Let me get that exact number again.
Send us the actual bill, okay? Now what?
Okay, guaranteed what happens here. What happened here? I'm not going to guaranteed. This is what I'm pretty darn sure what happened here. Christian Firth, as part of the contract through Dalian all the way back, issued a invoice to the CBSA for project management services. That way it comes to them from GC Strategies. And then GC Strategies takes that money and pays the invoice to Mr. Brennan here. Right? And it's for the same project. And then Bottler ends up having to pay Brennan $2,500 of their money. And they don't get reimbursed by it. So no doubt, Brennan came to Bottler and said, here's some money. And Bottler's lawyer said, screw you. We're not paying you anything. Now, if there was a legitimate agreement in place for this with Brennan, guess what Brennan should have done in that case? He should have sued Bottler for breach of contract. He didn't do that, and he was led to believe that Bottler filed bankruptcy. Where the hell would you get that idea? So that's another bullshit. So then he added it to the pile, meaning he sent it to GC Strategies. What for? GC Strategies, assuming you're telling the truth, GC Strategies would have no business if Bottler filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection. Like they wouldn't be involved in that at all. You'd be dealing with Bottler's lawyers at that point. So nothing this guy is saying is believable or makes any sense whatsoever. So if none of it makes sense, then you have to discard it. And what does make sense is that GC Strategies was billing CBSA for Vaughn Brennan while Bottler was being billed by Vaughn Brennan. And he's double dipping. That's what makes sense.
Why didn't you tell this committee that you're also employed as the sole director of Fair Meadow Crescent, another consulting business here in Ottawa?
I am not. I've never heard of Fair Meadow Crescent. That's an address.
Sorry, sir. I've got actually some evidence here that through the open government source, you're listed as the director, your name, Vaughn Brennan, with an address of 1889 Fair Meadow Crescent, Ottawa, Ontario.
Yeah, it's a mistype. I only have one company, Tailab Incorporated.
And that's still in operation?
It is.
All right. I'll yield my time to Mr. Genius.
You have time for about one quick question.
Mr. Brennan, what's your relationship with the company Absol?
Oh my gosh, yeah, we're going back to 2013. I worked with them in Abu Dhabi, Dubai, and Qatar.
Were you a director of that company?
I believe I was listed as a director, yes, but it was absolved shortly thereafter.
Was that speculative and hypecutical, or were
you
actually a director?
Actual.
Okay, I don't find this funny, but you know, can we request copies for this committee of your text message exchanges with Christian Firth? Could you provide those to the committee?
If I have them, I will.
Okay. Let's get those text messages going back 5 years, and let's get them to the committee within 48 hours. Are you agreeable to that, Mr. Brennan?
I don't know if I can do it in that time frame.
Okay. When can you get them to us?
Again, if I have them, I don't know if these stats are the same. I went looking for text, and those texts of that number seems to have disappeared as well, because I went to look for the text that was you quoted, and I don't have it.
Wow. Really? Yeah, I mysteriously don't have that. I smell a court subpoena coming.
Oh, most likely.
Don Wickenden, member for 2 months. Is it just me, or is his right ear on his jawline? Yeah, it's funny. The headset does not look correct at all, just like his testimony. What a child. Yeah, I don't disagree. He looks very disheveled. And Casper H with a $100 super chat. Thank you so much for that, Casper. Good to see you on the stream. Thank you very, very much.
And I did want to add, I was just kind of sitting here Googling things. I initially had T-Lab spelled wrong, so I looked it up properly, and it is incorporated, so it's not a sole proprietorship anymore.
So that gives them some extra tax benefits, and it makes it look a little bit more professional to government entities.
That's remarkable. Just, Mr. Chair, is there agreement from the committee to order the production of those text messages within a week?
Colleagues, can we agree for a week? And then, Mr. Firth, you can certainly get back to the clerk with what you have. If you have difficulty going past that time, you can let us know.
May as well be.
Or actually, sorry. I thought he misspoke. I think he was saying, literally, let's go to Mr. Firth and get them. So they don't have to go to Brennan. They can go to Firth and get them, because it's between the two of them.
Yeah, they've both got subpoenas for committee, so why not?
Thank you. So it's text messages within 5 years, and we will receive them as a committee within a week, just to make sure that's clear. Thank you.
Thanks, and that is our time. And we are going now to Mr. Sousa. Please go ahead.
Thank you. So
it's not ArriveCan, right?
So we've been discussing three issues, it seems to me, in regards to your activity and some accusations made against you. One, that you've been lying in regards to certain issues in respect to the semantics of the word fibbing. The other one, most recently, by Mr. Brock, is that you've overcharged on issues that you've done. Can you, and the last one is around this notion of lobbying. We've discussed the issue of what happened with regards to the fib. Can you, for the benefit of this committee, explain the billing that you did with regards to Bottler?
Chair, thank you so much for the question. I was contacted in February of last year by a law firm, and that law firm asked for significant pieces of information, which we're in discussions, if you will, of whether they are in the scope of the contract or not that I signed with Bottler. I said that I would go and do that work if they paid me for the time that I sat on meetings for Bottler, not for the federal government, meetings that I sat on for Bottler. If they paid me for those, that I would go and do that extra work. And that's where that invoice came from. So when I sent the invoice to their legal firm, they sent back saying, no, this belongs to GC Strategies. I was led to believe that they were no longer in business, and I just sent it back and threw it on the pile, thinking that it might be a GC, along with GC Strategies. I'll get paid for the work that they're asking me to do. I have not heard anything from them since.
So all you've been paid by Bottler, or in regards to this activity, was the $2,000+?
Correct.
That's all you've received.
Absolutely. Thank you.
The third issue that's coming up is around lobbying. Do you know what lobbying is and the Canadian lobbying registration? Like, you're familiar with the term, you're familiar with the activity, the limitations, and the requirements. So can you explain to this committee why you're not a lobbyist? Just for the purposes of making it very clear what it is you do and what you don't do.
So I am actually a business process, as I said previously. I work in the business resource management, identifying, if you will, new business processes, consolidation, efficiencies, effectiveness of different processes. I do not set up meetings. I do not have high-level meetings with anybody, any elected officials, anybody in power. My business model is specific to my CV, and that's how I make my money. I don't even have those relationships. I don't have a Rolodex to even be conceived as a lobbyist.
So when you drafted a letter in regards to enabling Bottler to reach out, that was on behalf of Bottlers. Who signed that letter?
And again, I used gets because I don't know who's who. It would have been the Bottler executive signed that letter.
I don't know who's. Yeah, I don't know who Chrystia Freeland is. That's basically what he's saying. Who's the prime minister? I don't even know who's in government. Or is the Green Party running the government? I don't know. But, I know a lot about government. That's my value add. Jeez.
So they're the ones that actually wrote the letter, which you just helped draft. Is that correct?
Draft. Yes.
So you're not lobbying. You're not receiving compensation for your contacts. You don't have contacts directly with elected officials or, in some cases, the bureaucrats, unless it's come as a result of the contract that you're performing.
Correct.
The 3 or 4 different that you've mentioned.
Yeah.
In terms of charging your billings in regards to this, if you double dipped, you'd only receive $2,500. You did not receive additional monies.
That doesn't matter, Sousa. That's like saying, well, you tried to break into the store, but you weren't successful.
You tried to murder that person, but
they didn't die.
Yeah.
So you're not a murderer. What's the problem? Like, really?
Yeah, we have laws for that, buddy.
Like, literally, he admitted to invoicing GC Strategies because he said, I hoped I would get paid for that work. Why would you invoice GC Strategies for that? Like, you're lying out your ass. Jeez.
And again, that was with Bottler, not even with the federal government.
Fair enough. And you are alleged to not be telling the truth here today because of a misquote or a quote in the paper.
Really?
A text.
Mr. Chair, that's all I have.
Oh, thank goodness.
Thank you, Mr. Sousa. Mrs. Vignola, please, for 2.5.
Merci beaucoup, monsieur.
Thank you very much, Chair. Mr. Brennan. I'm not going to go back and follow up on the list that my colleague just mentioned, but we heard that there was this fib. In your opinion, does Mr. Firth have high-level contacts? In one of your conversations
I'm not going to speak on
with Mr. Firth, did he speak about high-level contacts?
Chair, thank you for the question. I don't recall the I don't recall the conversation, and I can't comment on his relationships.
Why?
D'accord.
Understood. Is it possible that sometimes some people would say certain things or interpret certain things as other things? I don't know if you know about the tale of the frog that said it was a cow. This frog would said loud and clear that it knew everybody, and was not all that important at the end of the day.
What are you going here?
Do you know that if it's possible that this is the case right now in this situation?
I can't even follow it. I don't expect him to follow
I'm
it.
sorry,
I wonder if it doesn't translate well.
Yeah, I don't understand the question either.
En termes plus communs, disons, je me...
Okay, let's put the fable aside. I know that this might be a francophone tale that not all English people know about, but let's say there's somebody who says things to make them look really good and really important in order to get a contract. And with this regard to this chatbot with sexual harassment, and now we're talking about something here, and is that thing related to the fact that somebody would have lauded their value?
So I apologize that that I'm being very thick. I don't understand the question. So
Oh my God. Okay.
I mean, I kind of understood it the first time, even though I'm not familiar with the fable, but I definitely understood it the second time. Is Firth just saying that he knows all these people when he doesn't actually know all these people?
And the same thing with this guy. And could other people have interpreted that as like this? She's basically saying, could you have said at some point that you had all these contacts to boost yourself up in order to get the contract with Butler? That's kind of basically where she's going. And if Brennan is intending on wasting time, he's doing a great job of it, because Vignola is having to ask the same question over and over again, and she's not getting an answer because he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm not being thick. I don't understand."
Are you asking me if myself or Butler
Why would
inflated
Butler
their knowledge? Oh, GC, I can't comment. I don't know.
Shut up.
He conducts his own business.
Merci.
Thank you.
Thanks. Mr. Johns, please, go ahead.
Jeez.
So, Mr. Brennan, you said it was Butler who wanted you to write a value proposition to Deputy Prime Minister Freeland. But on January 25th, 2021, you sent Christian Firth an email with a draft letter for Deputy Prime Minister Freeland. You said, quote, "To our conversation this afternoon, I pulled together research and a suggested path over the past 3 to 4 days, to compile a deputy minister level email illustrating what I feel is pertinent to the value Butler AI can provide," end quote. So you and Christian had already discussed this, and no one from Butler is even CC'd on this email. You sent it only to Christian. In fact, I don't think Butler had ever seen this draft because their contact info, their phone number is still left blank. So I just really want to be clear here because you're under oath. Is it your testimony that Butler asked you to draft a letter to Deputy Prime Minister Chrystia Freeland on their behalf?
And remember, we have all of Firth's emails.
Yeah, that's where this came from.
That's exactly where this came from. So you better answer truthfully. Otherwise, there's going to be a breach of parliamentary privilege.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So I just also want to confirm, as you've said here, you did not receive any payment for doing this work on the Butler project, including drafting this letter. Is that correct?
The work that I provided for them was not specific to this.
Okay, so hypothetically, if you had gotten paid for that draft, yeah, would that have been considered lobbying?
No.
You don't believe it's lobbying?
Absolutely not.
And now, had you been paid for that draft, without it being considered lobbying?
Absolutely not. They asked me to draft a document. I'm actually contracted by them to document.
Okay. By that logic, nothing is lobbying. Lobbyists don't just go off on their own and lobby.
Yeah, they're paid by somebody.
Yeah, they're approached by organizations. Say, hey, I need you to do some lobbying for me. And they say, okay, here's my rate. All right, go lobby. And they say, sure. Would you like to do a letter? Sure. Okay, I'll go and lobby for you. Like, dude. This is why Johns is not buying what he's selling.
Okay, so I'm going to go back to the question I asked you earlier, to table all correspondence with Bottler AI, and you cited an NDA. I'm going to put forward a motion right now to this committee that that we request a production of documents that go back 5 years, and that it be viewed in confidence only by the committee, because you're concerned about the confidential nature of it. And then we review whether that should be held in confidence. And so, Mr. Chair, I move that we request these documents.
And this circumvents the NDA, by the way.
And an NDA in general, it doesn't cover like criminal activity.
Right.
So if you send an NDA because your boss, for example, is doing something illegal, it means nothing. You can go to the cops. Like, an NDA does not stop you from going to the authorities.
Well, and the intent of this is to protect intellectual property. A correspondence of writing an email to the Deputy Prime Minister's office, that's not intellectual property. This guy thought an NDA was going to be a shield for him. Clearly, he doesn't understand government at all. Casper H. with another $20 super chat. Thank you so much. Thank you for doing what you do. Keep up the great work. We definitely intend to do so.
Yeah. Justin Trudeau's going to have to drag us out of this office kicking and screaming if he wants us to stop.
If he can find us.
If he can find us.
Is everyone clear what Mr. Johns was looking for? He's looking for the documentations between Mr. Brennan and Bottler, I understand, but the intent is they will not be made public. They'll be viewed within the committee only, much as we've done with McKinsey and other documents in the past. Is that correct, Mr. Johns?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Jouari?
Yeah, fundamentally, I don't have any issue with that. I would like to have it in writing in both official languages, and then I commit that our side will engage in that discussion. Traditionally, we haven't had any issue, but let's get it in. Let's get the wording, because we're requesting production of document, and we in general agree. But it just, when it comes to the wording, then
we want to slow things down as much as possible.
It's not what we're looking for. So I just want to get the wording, and as I said, in general, we haven't had
like
any
it's
issue.
pretty straightforward.
Please have it in both official languages, and then distribute it, and I'll commit to have that conversation tomorrow when we are meeting.
I just want to point out that these Liberals are not on the side of Canadians. Look at how they're trying to slow stuff down. Like, millions and millions of taxpayer dollars were wasted, and instead of wanting to get to the bottom of this right away, they're trying to slow it down even more. And it's already been several years.
Yeah. And, it makes you think, could it be because you guys are trying to protect Chrystia Freeland? Because if you know, if the public knew, and if this is verified, that this goes all the way up to Chrystia Freeland's office, the Liberals are done. Election will be called. Not by Trudeau, but the NDP. The chairs are backed away from the frickin' table. They are running to the polls.
Well, they'll have lost the confidence of the House, which is what an election is.
Right. Like, if this is proven to be brought up to Freeland's office, the government will fall.
Yeah, because we've heard her name several times tonight.
So, who knows? Who knows? These two courageous whistleblowers could be responsible for the fall of the government. Time will tell. But as always, we follow the evidence and we see where the evidence leads. So far, there's more and more evidence piling up here. Huge ass, member for 1 month. Me know things, me big skill set, me hypothetical. If you willy, me know things. Who lobby? Lobby who? Me no know. Lobby, maybe Butler. No lobby.
Amazing.
That was great. And Eat Me gifted 1 Northern Perspective memberships. Eat that, whoever got that membership, and give Eat Me a thank you very much. Thank you very much. All right, let's continue. We're probably getting to the end.
Is that fine, Mr. Johns? We'll
Yes.
get it in writing,
Yeah,
and then we can discuss it tomorrow. Wonderful.
Yep, sounds good.
Thanks, Mr. Jouari. We are now going to Mr. Genuis for 5 minutes, please.
Thank you, Chair. I think at this point it's important to take stock of and summarize where we're at in this whole ArriveCan scandal and series of hearings. There are a few things that we know as a committee. Number one, we know that $54 million were spent on an app and spent through a 2-person company that did no IT work, that was given the contract and subcontracted all of it. And we know that the RCMP are investigating contractors that have a relationship to this project. We know that the procurement system is broken, and government members, Liberal members have testified to this on this committee. They've talked about the unwieldy and complicated nature of our procurement system, how we have had substantial growth in the public service as well as substantial growth in spending on bureaucracy. So we have a bizarre procurement decision around ArriveCan. We have a procurement system that is broken overall, that's leading to a proliferation of consultants hiring consultants who have never done better than they are doing right now. But we also know that this committee has been repeatedly lied to by various witnesses in response to various kinds of questions. Christian Firth contradicted himself terribly in the course of his own 2-hour testimony.
Yes, he did.
We have a witness today, Mr. Brennan, who has told us that what he put in text messages previously was not true. So either he was stating untruths in text messages, or he is stating untruths to us as a committee. We further have Cameron McDonald and Min Doan, 2 senior public servants, accusing each other of lying to this committee about who was responsible for the decision to procure ArriveCan. So we have multiple instances of people lying or accusing each other of lying. In some cases, we don't know who it is, but we know one of them is lying. In the case of Mr. McDonald and Mr. Doan.
Both?
And now we have, just this week, stories coming out about severe professional consequences against public servants who have testified at this committee. We have a story now that Mr. McDonald and Mr. Utano have been incredibly suspended from the public service without pay in the middle of an ongoing investigation. So clearly this procurement decision and procurement overall has significant problems with it. But what I'm most struck by is the cover-up that we are seeing in the context of these hearings. It should be fairly easy for both public servants and consultants to appear before this committee and simply tell us the truth. It is not a stressful proposition to appear before a parliamentary committee if you simply plan to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth. But when we have people who say, for instance, that a text message they sent was speculative and hypothetical when it has every indication of stating direct knowledge of what happens inside government, then it raises other questions, just simply of why there is this ongoing multidimensional cover-up from both public servants and from consultants. And it makes me wonder if one of the reasons why people are so reluctant to be forthright and answer direct questions is because of the kind of reprisals that we've seen. When you have senior public servants who are a bit more forthright in the case of Mr. McDonald than others have been, who then see negative professional consequences after they've testified before this committee, it maybe elucidates why there has been a reluctance for people to come forward. But it also raises the question of what's behind all this. What is being covered up? What would we find out if we actually got the frank and honest and clear answers from public servants and consultants that we want? So let me propose, I think, what is more than speculative and hypothetical regarding Mr. Brennan's testimony. I think it's very likely that he does have a contact inside the Deputy Prime Minister's office.
There you go.
That what he said in his text messages was accurate.
Yeah.
That he wasn't just making things up in repeated communications with other individuals and in text messages, but that he was telling the truth at those times. And now, for whatever reason, he is embarrassed about, reluctant to acknowledge that he had an intimate knowledge somehow of the workings of the Deputy Prime Minister's office, and so he is running away from the suggestion that he has any kind of contact or relations within government. It just doesn't make sense to me that somebody would say outright falsehoods in text messages and then dismiss those as it was just a text message. It was just a hypothetical scenario. He was making statements to other people that he worked with, making specific claims about the kinds of conversations that happened inside the Deputy Prime Minister's office. The only logical explanation for Mr. Brennan repeatedly making claims about having intimate knowledge about what was happening inside the Deputy Prime Minister's office is that he actually had such knowledge.
There's the play.
Okay, so we did discuss this like right at the beginning before we even started the committee video, and it still makes me feel sick to my stomach the way they're trying to be like, well, you know, McDonald's scared to come out and whatever. It feels really gross. After what Cypher said, I understand why they are doing it, but it feels gross to me. I can't even.
Well, yeah, and you know, there's a political play here, and here there's a justice play in here. So they were setting Brennan up with his testimony. They probably didn't know his answers would be this fantastical, but it was to essentially set this up to lay this at the feet of elected officials. So, you know, he's come out and said, I think there is a relationship inside the Deputy Prime Minister's office. And remember, on a couple of live streams, we've said there's going to be an initial, like, all of this initial investigation and questioning, but the Conservatives are working to try to tie this to elected officials.
Yeah, into the cabinet is what you had said.
Into the cabinet. Yeah. So who would have been in cabinet at that point? It would have been Marco Mendocino, which is the Minister of Public Safety, who the CBSA would have reported to at that point, and Chrystia Freeland being Minister of Finance, right? That's basically what we're talking about here. So if her office kind of is connected to all of this, you know, what does that mean? Well, we don't know yet. We don't know exactly what that means. So to be completely objective, just because a random contractor, Vaughn Brennan, has a relationship with somebody inside the Deputy Prime Minister's office, is that illegal? No. Did that cost taxpayer money? No. Did anything happen with that with regard to Butler? No. But he's very concerned about shielding that. So if it was just an email sent to them and the response was, no, we're not interested, then that's a nothing burger. That would have been very easy to say, yeah, well, we sent the letter and nothing came of it. So what? Move on. Like, that's literally a nothing question. Should have been easy to be truthful for. But there's all of these lies around there. Why? Why? And that's the question that Genuous is asking. Like, if there was nothing there, then why would you lie about it? Because there's something there.
Because it's fun? No. It's because they're protecting someone or something.
Right. Something is there. Like, it's just silly. Colleen Thorpe with a $27.99 super chat. That's your third on a live stream. Thank you very much for that late night birthday present from Northern Perspective. We really, really do appreciate that.
And we also have a $5 super chat from the dude. It says, I hope more whistleblowers will come out and help Canadians stay above water. And happy birthday, Cypher and Fox. Thank you very much.
Thank you very, very much.
It's been an awesome way to spend an anniversary with all you guys.
Yeah. So, we're starting to see, as of today, the Conservatives now starting to try and put pressure, like actual political pressure, on ministers to come to cabinet. No doubt they've already invited the ministers and they've told them to piss off. But they're trying to put political pressure on them now to come to committee. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. Anyway, let's finish up here.
So needless to say, this whole ArriveCan affair stinks. It demonstrates the broken procurement system that exists under this government. But it makes me extremely curious, and I think will make the public extremely curious. What is being covered up? What would we find? What will we find when we can actually get to the bottom of what took place?
Thank you, Mr. Genuous. That is our time. Mr. Shawari, please, for 5 minutes to finish up for us, sir.
I won't subject you guys to Mr. Jawari.
Wow. Wow. We were told this one was going to be a doozy, and oh my goodness.
Yeah, this has been something else, folks. Pretty significant testimony here. And it's significant that the most significant testimony has been, well, that was a hypothetical. Like, that's literally the new chalet. So this did not go well for Vaughn Brennan. Well, I'll get to Don Wickenden's 5 gifted Northern Perspective memberships. Thank you so much for that, Don. Very, very generous of you. It's going to make Christian First's return to committee very problematic. He's coming back before February 9th, everybody. So he declined the summons on the basis of struggling mental health, and was basically given a extension of that, saying, okay, fine, but you have until February 9th to come back. So we will see Mr. Firth again. And given the fact that it's obvious that he's turned over all these emails and all this correspondence that the committee now has, they're going to have a lot of new questions for him. And no doubt they're going to say, so, Mr. Brennan said this. What is your position on this? And it's going to be interesting because Firth knows he's screwed. Absolutely screwed. So he needs to start telling the truth, or he's going to make it worse for themselves. And if I'm Kelly, I'm swearing him in. That way, if he lies again, he could be charged with perjury. I believe.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's perjury in committee or if it's something else related to Parliament.
Probably contempt of Parliament.
It's not good.
Yeah. Caper Grant 692 with a $5 super chat. Great show tonight. Keep up the great work. Someday, hopefully, we get to see behind the avatars. I know it's for you guys' safety. Yas are so mysterious.
Yeah, it is at this point in time. And that's the long-term goal of the channel, I think, to get to a point where we can not have to use the avatars anymore and just be ourselves and not have to worry about possible repercussions about talking about the things we're talking about.
Well, and honestly, I wish, at some point we may, but if we ever get to the point where we can drop the avatars. Just, you know, y'all haven't seen nothing yet when it comes to the show. Like we'll have some pretty big plans for the show at that point. Ryan Donald with a $5 super chat. Good on Genuous for putting it all together. Happy anniversary, guys. Keep doing what you do. We love you, Northern Perspective. Thank you very much. Yeah.
And we also have a comment from Diane Sylvain, member for 1 month, that says, "Let's go. Sometimes the police use quote unquote criminals as undercover agents. Just saying that getting to the truth is kind of like wading through shit." It sure is. Working with undercover drug traffickers, for example.
Yeah. And, you know, and like that's the thing that's why we put all this effort behind here. You know, it's, I wouldn't say this is fun, but it's,
I think it's fun.
It's satisfying to be able to, you know, really translate this for everybody. The fun is actually being on here with all of you. It's not subjecting ourselves to liberal, liberal questions.
Oh my goodness. There's some of them where we're just like, oh, I want to fast forward it, but we can't.
Yeah. But remember, tomorrow should be very interesting. I'm hoping the Conservatives bring up a question for Miss O'Gorman as to why the CBSA was paying for the legal fees for Mr. Utano and Mr. McDonald as they were navigating this scandal and the RCMP investigation. I want them to ask that. Why are taxpayers being asked to foot the bill for this? They're not even asked. We didn't even get a choice in it.
Well, and see, this is why I don't buy the whole, oh, they were thrown under the bus thing. Like they were being protected until they weren't. So I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see, I guess.
Yeah. So tomorrow is former President Mr. John Osowski, who was the president of the Canada Border Services Agency during the time when the ArriveCan app was authorized, built, and paid for. And Aaron Ogerman is the current president of the CBSA, who actually referred the misconduct complaint that Bottler filed to the RCMP in the first place, but also authorized, or would have been her, to authorize the legal fees paid for Cameron McDonald and Tony Utano. So there's some interesting connections going on here. And tomorrow should be hopefully as interesting as today. So one comment from SCK Reptiles Educational Center. Cypher and Fox, thanks for everything, my good friends. Love you guys. We love all of you too. We really, really do. I think we probably hit a record for concurrent viewers at 1,306, I think I saw.
I think so.
And thank you, everyone, for the 1,470 likes. That's a record.
That definitely is a record.
Yeah. And
1,500 next time. Yeah.
So hopefully we can hang out with all of you tomorrow as well. It was great to see Celtic Canuck in here. That was nice. And hopefully everybody can get some sleep tonight. I'm glad we're not going to bed at 1 o'clock. So stay safe, everybody. Thanks for watching. We're not going to be recording a video tonight or tomorrow night. I hope you can understand why. So take care, and we will see you right back here at 9 p.m. Eastern tomorrow to review tomorrow's ArriveCan committee. And hopefully it's as entertaining as tonight. And a last-minute $10 super chat from Peter Drew. Thank you very much. What a way to end a live stream with your first on a live stream. So thank you, everybody. Take care and have a good night.
Good night, everyone.